My entitled sister likes to make up stuff about our mother just to make herself look like the victim and to tarnish my mother's name. But after dealing with this for so long, I finally decided to put my foot down and demand that she either explain herself or she shut her mouth and keep our mom out of her mouth. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start this off by saying that my sister was never mistreated. She just likes to think that she was, because playing the victim is all she does anymore. But in truth, she actually mistreated me, physically, verbally, emotionally, and one time she even made me lick her feet. Our mother clawed her way up from nothing. She went to college, got a great career, and did everything she could. But for my sister, it just wasn't enough. And my sister never grew out of her teenage mentality. She's 41 years old with the mind of a 16-year-old on some kind of substance. She invents new things in her own head and then convinces herself it actually happened. Now, my sister used to work at a small store and eatery, and it's thanks to her that we can't show our faces in there anymore. And it's a shame too, because they had some really good food there. Anyways, for a while, my sister had a part-time coworker. This girl was meek and clearly traumatized. My sister got it out of her just how crazy this poor girl's mother was. I can't recall any specific details, but there was clear mistreatment of all kinds. Emotional, mental, physical, the works. One thing I do remember was that the poor girl forgot her lunch one day and called her mother for help. Well, her mother yelled at her over the phone, said some horrible things, and then dropped by with nothing more than a small yogurt for her and expected her to be extremely grateful for it. My sister recounted this stuff to me while at home and then reenacted her reaction to the girl's story, which was to over-dramatically act like she was on the verge of tears with her hand on her heart and say that she was having flashbacks of her own mother and the things that she did to her. I was clearly weirded out, but ended up letting it go to avoid more drama. But that same subject about her coworker got brought up later, and that time my sister started saying that our mother did the same stuff to her as her coworker's mother. And at this point, I finally had had enough, and I confronted my sister about all the made-up crap she was saying about our mother. I then asked her, when did all that stuff happen? Because I don't remember any of that. She just stood there staring for a second and then tried to play it off with a slight laugh, but I just didn't let it go. I said to her, no, seriously, when did that stuff happen? Because I don't remember any of that happening when we were kids. She just froze up and then walked away because she couldn't answer. She would probably totally deny this ever happening too, because she either would not remember or had enough time to mentally invent a retort. But that day she couldn't make up anything and she just walked off. In another post, I talked about how my sister didn't buy winter clothing for her kids in 2023, and I bought all of those clothes for them at a thrift store because it was all that I could afford. When I took my middle nephew out to buy clothing, we ended up talking about his mother, and I ranted many things about her to him, and he added some things from his side as well. And this kid is observant with a really level head, and currently has no denial about what kind of person his mother actually is. Then, after we were done shopping, his mother texted him, and during the text messages, my sister started making up stuff about our mother again, because that's her go-to thing to do when trying to keep people on her side. And right there over text messaging, my nephew used the same lies that I did. He literally said, well, when did that happen? I don't remember that happening. And then she just kind of stopped texting, like no response at all. I expected her to just need some time to make something up, but she didn't bother and didn't message him for the rest of the day. Thanks to my sister spreading rumors about our parents while she was living on the family property, my parents started getting the side eye from people, and we were getting recognized and treated like crap. Once we evicted my sister, that all finally stopped. Like, people just don't even seem to remember it anymore. My sister was going out of her way to poison the well for so long, but she can't do that anymore. And my stress has gone way down since we kicked her entitled butt out of here. Like, family drama just went to almost zero as soon as she was gone, and it's so much quieter here. I do miss my nephews though, but they're doing so much better since their dad took them away from my sister. Wow, your sister literally just does not sound like a good person, and I'm so sorry you have to deal with that. It really seems like she's making stuff up about your mom just so she can make herself the victim again for some dumb reason. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? That's so weird. That literally makes no sense, and I just don't know why you would do that. So yeah, I'm really glad you called your sister out on her garbage, because this kind of behavior, in my opinion, is absolutely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled father-in-law is trying to control my wife and I with his money, and after dealing with this for so long, we finally decided that enough was enough and put our foot down to set some serious boundaries. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of background, my father-in-law left to go live in his home country when my wife was 10 years old. My mother-in-law got their marriage annulled 5 years before that after he literally cheated on her. He told my wife that he just couldn't make it in our country, and so he had to leave. Well, 3 years ago, my wife and I got got married, and my father-in-law and his wife flew in for the wedding. During a dinner with them before the wedding, my father-in-law told us that he wanted to give us $20,000 towards a down payment on a home and another $50,000 after we bought the home. And you know what? We graciously accepted, and we've never asked him for money or about his money. He wanted to be very involved in the process and wanted to go to all the viewings with us. Eventually, he brought us to this 50-year-old condo his friend was selling, and it needed to be totally renovated. He then pressured us into buying it, and we told him that we couldn't afford it even with his help because of all the renovations and the high condo fees. But even though we were explaining it, he simply couldn't understand where we were coming from. They eventually went back home, and he kept asking my wife when we were going to buy a place. At this point, I knew that he was just some typical old person who got lucky with his home appreciation and thinks that buying real estate means that you're going to get rich, no matter what. So he's super anxious about his daughter buying property. We were renting an apartment from family for well below market rent, and we're saving a lot of money. We were not in a rush to buy anything and triple our housing cost. Our careers were just starting to take off too, so we were focused on them. My father-in-law then blows up on my wife over text messaging and basically says I'm a moron for not wanting to buy his friend's rundown condo and fix it up. He also said that he thinks I might take his money and somehow invest it in stocks and cryptocurrency, all because I told him that I invest in index funds inside my company pension. It was a whole novel of ranting and capital letters, just utter nonsense. Keep in mind, I've been nothing but friendly and cordial with him. Now, I know he's financially illiterate and got lucky with an inheritance and some home appreciation, so he was able to retire in some kind of way. He's never invested in stocks because they are, according to him, too risky. And you know what? My wife just claps back at him with her own wall of text, and then we just leave it as it is. Fast forward to a year later, and he ends up buying his friend's condo himself with cash and says he's going to live here half the year just to be closer to my wife. And it's like, oh my gosh, here we go again. So he eventually fixes it all up and then goes back home. A month before he plans to come back with his wife, he blows up on my wife over text messaging again. He is constantly sending us real estate listings that we can't afford, telling us he knows the area and what we should buy, with no consideration for what we want. We just politely tell him that we will take them into consideration, but he blows up on us again. And this time, he actually sends me a wall of text along with my wife. He tells me, "You're not children. Why haven't you bought yet?" And now at this point, I'm pissed off because he's insulting me. I tell him to keep his opinions to himself and that this conversation is over. He then tells me that I'm mistreating him. He then sends a picture to my wife of his stepdaughter and her husband in front of a house they bought that same month in their country with some sentences that said, "This is what happens when you listen to your parents." He tells my wife they gave them money towards their down payment. My wife then goes and asks the stepdaughter if my father-in-law gave them money, and my stepdaughter says no and explains it was actually her in-laws, who are incredibly rich by the way, that gave them the money for the house. The stepdaughter then goes ballistic on my father-in-law for lying and for using her like that to insult us. And even my father-in-law's wife is now pissed at him too. My father-in-law and his wife fly here and just don't even contact us. Eventually, my father-in-law's wife reached out to my wife and basically says, "Hey there, we're here. Are you going to contact us?" And they didn't give any apology or anything like that. My wife goes to meet them and they say they just want to trust us and that we should basically expose all of our finances to them in order to build that trust. But my wife says no, we're setting boundaries. If you want to help us, we don't want it to feel like a transaction where we have to do whatever you want us to do. It's either a gift or it's not. They constantly come across as though they are entitled to know about how much money we're making and how much we have. I still don't understand their motivations, and I think it's all just about trying to control us, and I'm honestly not having any of it. Oh man, you hit the nail on the head. That is literally the only reason they want to know your finances, and that is completely unacceptable. Seriously, why the heck would they act like that? It seems like they only gave you that money because they want to control what you do. And I just can't get over the fact that they try to force you to buy that rundown condo and be like, okay, time to fix it up. And it's like, dude, I'm not doing that. You're insane. So good for you for putting your foot down because this situation is incredibly sketchy and your father-in-law absolutely has a hidden agenda. Am I the jerk for not telling my friend that the supposedly volunteer gig we were going to sign up for is actually a paid gig that he flaked out on? Because right now he's framing this as if I set him up, when in reality, I knew just as much information as he did. Here's what happened. Okay, so me and my friend, who we will call Ryan, are both in engineering. Last month, our department posted a call for volunteers to help run logistics at a local tech conference. It sounded like a good networking opportunity, so I signed up and I told Ryan about it too, but he was like, well, it's not worth the time unless they're paying me for it. And honestly, fair enough. I then show up the first day, and to my surprise, they hand me a badge, free food vouchers, and say that we'll be getting a small stipend at the end. And this is not anything big, but still $300 for 2 days is not bad at all. Ryan then texts me while I'm there and is like, hey, how's it going? And I just say, it's not bad, it's pretty chill so far. I didn't mention the money because for starters, I didn't know how long I would be staying, and secondly, he already decided it wasn't worth it. Anyways, after the event, I got a stipend and I post a picture of the staff group on Instagram, and Ryan sees it and says, wait, you got paid? And I said to him, well, yeah, it ended up being paid after all. When I said this, he flips out. He says I was shady for not telling him, that he would have come if he knew, and that I knew that he needed the cash. He then told a few people that I set him up just to miss out on this event. But it's like, listen, he made his call. I didn't know it was paid either at first, and I never lied to him. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because I seriously don't know what to do. No, Ryan's an idiot. This guy literally made his decision, and that is not your problem. If this guy only wants to show up if he's getting paid and doesn't see the value in networking, then literally that is his fault and not yours. You clearly see this as a good thing, and he just can't understand that for some dumb reason. And for reference, both of them are 23 years old, so getting a good network going this early in your career is probably a really good thing. And if I was in their shoes, I would jump at the chance to have that. Like seriously, it's only a net positive and there's no reason not to go. So no, you're not the jerk, because at the end of the day, you are literally not responsible for your friend in the slightest. My idiotic doctor that I work with refuses to give me any orders to give medication to a patient severely in pain, resulting in one of the greatest verbal smackdowns that I've ever seen towards a doctor in my life. Here's what happened. So I used to work the night shift as a nurse, and one night many years ago, I received a patient on my unit from the emergency room. My patient was accompanied by his lovely wife, and when I introduced myself to them as being their nurse, I noticed immediately he was in severe pain. I reviewed his chart and his orders, and the doctor had not ordered any pain medications for him and just written to admit him to the unit. I called the doctor, who told me that he was not going to order anything until he reviewed the patient's chart and saw them. And honestly, I was so confused because he did see them in the emergency room, so why the delay? I tried to ask, but he insisted he would be up to the unit soon and then just hung up on me. I then apologized to the patient and the wife, relaying to them the doctor's message. Several minutes later, the doctor comes up and I ask him again for any pain medications I could give, as my patient was still having severe pain. Well, the doctor told me no, then proceeded to gather a bunch of charts, sitting at the nurse's station and just completely ignoring me. I went back to the patient's room again, apologized, and told them that the doctor was here, but was wanting to review charts first before making orders. The wife, I could tell, was becoming angry, as her poor husband was having severe pain with no relief. She then asked me where the doctor was, and you know what? I gladly escorted her to the nursing station. And then I told the doctor that the patient's wife wanted to talk to him. I remember her ripping into him about the weight, her husband's suffering, and his refusal to write any medication. He then immediately apologized and gave me orders for medications that could be given immediately. So yeah, sometimes having family members there who can yell at the doctors is honestly the best, because unfortunately, this is not something that I myself can do. Okay, that is honestly so disappointing, because you would think a doctor would be more proactive about their patient care. Like, that guy totally had his priorities mixed up, and that is completely unacceptable. This guy's sitting here in pain and you're like, I'm gonna look at charts first. I'm not doing anything until I review it. So yeah, this guy absolutely deserved to be yelled at, and I'm so glad that you brought the wife into the picture, because she really put him in his place in a way that he absolutely deserved. My husband is literally pooping his pants every single day and tries to claim and gaslight me into thinking that it's not a big deal. But right now, I'm at my breaking point, as I feel like I'm going crazy dealing with this situation, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of background, I'm a 30-year-old female and he is 32 years old. My husband got promoted at work, but it's not a paid promotion and it's mostly just pro bono. Regardless though, he says that it could lead to a higher paying position. Anyways, he is tired all the time lately with all these extra duties at work. So he's been less consistent with his hygiene, and in fact, he's stopped showering as often. His diet is awful, so I think that is contributing to this issue as well. He won't touch a vegetable, he eats a lot of gas station food, and a lot of fast food. It used to be that he would have really bad gas, like curl your hair bad, open every window in the house, and wait outside for it to dissipate bad. Eventually, he started taking his pills for it, and that eventually helped. But lately, when I do the laundry, I have been noticing huge stains in his underwear, and it is so disgusting. It smells awful. Sometimes I can smell it when he walks around the house or sits on something, so I just stopped doing his laundry. I told him it was unacceptable and foul to walk around with so much poop on your underwear. I'm sorry, there's no other way to put it. I didn't feel comfortable sharing a bed, so he's been sleeping on the couch for 2 months. He doesn't care about showering. He doesn't seem to care about his smell. He tries to guilt me about not sleeping in the bed, but I told him it's his own fault. If he would just shower when he gets home, then all of this can be fixed. I tried to explain explain how unsanitary it is. I told him I'm lonely and I'm not even being able to share a bed or a space with him. I offered to go to the doctor with him. I asked him if he was feeling depressed, and I even asked him if he would try therapy or counseling. I tried to get him to use a bidet, and I asked him if I could help with his paperwork at home so he could feel less burden at work. I literally threw out everything I could think of. But you know what? He just brushed me off, and he is insisting that I am overreacting and that it's normal for grown men to have some skid marks. He blames me for shutting him out, but I physically feel sick when I catch a whiff of him sometimes. The nail in the coffin was that he told me that sometimes when he farts, he presses his underwear against his butt cheek just to see if it feels wet. Yeah, it's that gross. And you know what? I told him that was it. I was so done. The line had been drawn and completely crossed. I told him that I don't see how we can ever be physically close again because I'm so disgusted by all of this. I mean, seriously, this is so childish. I can't even believe it's happening to me. I'm too embarrassed to tell a soul outside of my home about this, so that's why I'm venting it out here on the internet. I feel like this is not real life anymore, but I'm so lost over this. I truly care about him and I don't want to leave him. He is my husband. We have built a life together and I can tell he is struggling with something. But if he makes absolutely no effort to fix the issue, then guess what? It's going to be affecting the both of us. And it's honestly just not fair to me. How long am I supposed to sit by while this continues? I don't even want to go home half the time because of the smell as soon as I walk in the door. The worst part about it is him gaslighting me about it, saying I'm imagining things, that it doesn't smell as bad as I think it does, that I'm making it out to be a big deal when it's not. Normally, he is very receptive to my feelings, but lately he is just acting so defensive. We have been married 8 years, so it's crazy to me that things can change so suddenly, and it seems like he has stopped trying altogether. I have heard that depression can do this to people, but he doesn't seem to be in bad spirits at all, just more fatigued than usual. So seriously, I am absolutely at my wit's end because right now I really don't know what to do. Okay, this is unbelievably gross. Seriously, your husband is crapping his pants and doing nothing about it. And this is far beyond any kind of like random instance. I can understand some situation where you're like, okay, I think I need to like clean myself in the shower more or something like that. Like I think anybody could run into that, even at the bare minimum, but this is literally an everyday occurrence. I honestly can't even understand how he has a job anymore if he goes into like an office space, because I'm pretty sure, at least from the places I've worked in the past, having good hygiene is a must. You can't go in smelling like actual poop and expect to have a job at the end of the day. That is not how this works, and that's completely unacceptable. And you as his wife should not have to put up with this. This is seriously gross. I just cannot get over that. And you know what? This guy is completely out of his mind if he thinks this is not a big deal, because it is. He's a fully grown 32-year-old male. Either something's going on with like mental health problems, or he has completely just given up on this marriage. So truly, I am honestly so sorry you're dealing with this. This is horrifying, and I would not want to be in your shoes in the slightest. And for the sake of your happiness and not even your husband's, I really hope this gets worked out in one way or the other. Am I the jerk for yelling at my aunt after she kept pressuring me to marry her son? Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I'm a 24-year-old female, and for context, I'm from Pakistan. So where I'm from, getting married to your cousins are common, and my aunt keeps pressuring me to marry her son, who's 25 years old, ever since I was a teenager. This started in my teen years, and my aunt would start making jokes such as, "You would make such a good daughter-in-law," or stuff like, "You and my son would make a great couple." Now, I used to brush it off back then, and I would just ignore it, hoping it would stop, but they never did. Instead, it started being more common. She started doing it every time we met, and I've shut her down politely every single time, saying I'm not interested and it won't ever happen. My mom knew how much it bothered me, but she didn't want to disrespect her elders, so she kept quiet and only spoke about it in private when my aunt messaged her. My mom told me to keep quiet and ignore it because she won't let it happen. But you know what? This was very uncomfortable. The whole thing gave my cousin some wrong ideas because he started messaging me in private, saying things like, "We're getting married in the future, so why aren't you talking to me now?" And you know what? I would just ghost him and ignore his messages. Just a few years ago, I finally lost my temper at a family gathering after my aunt said, "You're all grown up now. When are you gonna marry him? Our decision is final." The strong feeling of just being grossed out and the cringe just made me lash out. I then yelled at my aunt, calling her stupid for not listening to me and not understanding what no means. I used mild swear words as well, and it was a whole heated argument. To end the argument, my brother had to physically carry me out of the house, where I had a breakdown and we all just left her house. My mom was hurt by this a lot, and I could feel the pain in her voice whenever we spoke about this. She said that she just wishes I handled it differently. Well, after this came a series of unwanted toxicity and drama. My aunt yelled at my mom, making her look like a terrible person, all for supposedly letting that happen, and cut off all ties. And she even influenced my mom's oldest sister and brother to do the same thing. Well, my cousin got married to somebody else, and we had to find out about it from somebody else. He got married and divorced just later that year, and somehow my aunt managed to partially blame me and my mom for that divorce, even though we played no part in it. My mom deals with her siblings often, and sometimes they drag her into dramas. I've seen her cry in her room alone because of this, and it makes me feel so bad. I feel like I should have done better or done things differently for the sake of my mom. All this toxicity and drama would have been avoided if I simply just did things differently, and at this point, I'm honestly not sure what to do. Okay, first off, you are not the jerk for setting your foot down, because this is insane. I understand there's a cultural difference here and cousins can get married, but even at the bare minimum, imagine if this was some like family friend, and from the time you were a teenager, they were constantly pushing them on you no matter what, trying desperately to arrange a marriage that you absolutely did not sign up for, and never listening to you when you said no. I think in that scenario, I would lose my mind if that was happening to me. I would be pissed off and not be okay with this. So no, overall, you are definitely not the jerk, because what your aunt did to you is completely unacceptable. My entitled friend constantly destroys other people's buildings in our Minecraft server, leaving things in absolute rubble and ruining the experience for everybody involved. And after dealing with this for so long, I finally snapped after this guy destroyed one of my builds that took me 4 months to make. And now, after banning him from my server, I'm now being called a jerk, and I'm struggling to understand if I made the right decision. Here's what happened. This story also came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Okay, to start things out, I'm a 26-year-old male from Australia who loves to play video games, especially Minecraft. I play Minecraft with a group of guys who are from New Zealand, and there's 7 of us in total. I met them in 2014 while playing Grand Theft Auto on the Xbox 360, and we've all been friends ever since. In 2019, Minecraft turned 10 years old and started its big comeback, and my friends and I all jumped at the opportunity and played it together. We would play it on just one world, where we would only be able to play when the owner of the world was on. At the start of the pandemic, and not being able to go outside, I decided to open a realm. And in case you don't know what a realm is, it's a server for Minecraft where anyone can go on whenever they want, even if I wasn't online. And this was really fun for all of us, as some of my friends are really creative at building stuff. Unfortunately, in every group of friends, there is always a jerk who ruins the fun for everyone, and that person in this case is someone by the name of Jason. Jason is not their real name. He was one of those types of people who just had an itchy trigger finger, so if you build something in the realm and left it for the night, chances are when you get back on, it would have been blown up. He's also made some awful jokes, doing things in-game that are just completely inappropriate, that are just not funny, and they really just make everybody feel awkward. He would invade people's areas and build something that was really stupid, or something that was just super offensive. And even one time, he built a bunker underneath one of my friend's houses, while also putting a really offensive symbol on the front of it. But you know what? After dealing with this for so long, I finally snapped, and I decided that enough was enough. I was building a castle in the realm, and I had just finished it. It took me 4 months to make it, and it could have taken me about 2 to 3 months, but in the process of building it, I was moving out of my parents' house, and I had a lot of stress with work and getting home late, and I just couldn't be bothered to get on and finish it. After I finished it, I sent a photo of it to our group chat on Facebook just to show it off. Everyone was so excited about it, and everybody mentioned how good it looked. And in the back of my head, I was just really hoping that Jason would leave it alone, because trust me, he's on thin ice. If he destroyed anyone's builds ever again, he would get the ban. But oh, how I was so wrong. I logged out and I went to bed, and the next morning I was gonna start designing the inside of the castle and possibly do some expansion on it. But when I got into the realm, my heart lodged up against my throat. All I saw was a massive crater where my castle was supposed to be, with half of it missing and the top part still intact. I was more than angry at this moment. I was absolutely raging. So after I calmed down, I quickly grabbed my phone and went into the group chat to yell at Jason. I saw that when I got on, all of them were in a phone call. So I went in and absolutely raged. I jumped into the call and I started yelling at him. I said to him, "What is wrong with you? I spent 4 months making that castle and you just had to be your jerk self." He tried to claim his innocence, but I was not having it. I told him time and time again, if you do it to me or anyone else, I will ban him. So you know what? That's exactly what I did. He was banned as soon as I got out of the call and back into the game. But now I'm wondering if I did the right thing, because now my friends are telling me to add him back, but I simply can't trust him him anymore. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you are absolutely not the jerk in this scenario. And before anyone tries to like make fun of this scenario and be like, wow, it's just Minecraft, here's the thing. Some of these builds take a long time to make. Like this guy spent 4 months working on this thing. If I spent 4 months building something up just to have it then torn apart by some jerk who likes to grief other people, I would lose my mind. I would be banning him so fast there wouldn't even be a discussion. Because here's the thing, none of your other friends did this. No one else would be so low as to do this to you. Jason is the only one with a record in this regard, and unless someone's trying to like sabotage him or something like that, then he's absolutely the one who did this. So in my opinion, you are not the jerk. This guy absolutely had to be banned. And in my opinion, I absolutely think you made the right choice. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I'm worried that my boyfriend is disrespecting my friends and family by not being involved or introducing himself to them. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 24-year-old female, and I would say I'm a pretty late bloomer. I just never had the urge to date, and the only reason I joined any dating application was because all my friends were doing it. I managed to meet a wonderful guy, and we've been official for about 10 months now. I feel like I have a hard time navigating relationships since this is my first one. I occasionally struggle with my mental health and have some baggage due to my parents' messy relationship. My boyfriend is great, but I'm also his first girlfriend, so it does feel a bit like the blind leading the blind. My main issue is that while he is super understanding, patient, and caring towards me, he doesn't seem to have any urge to get to know my family or the important people in my life, nor has he made any significant effort to try and introduce or talk about his family or friends. At times, I feel like we're just friends. It seems like he hasn't really thought deeply about what exactly he wants in a partner, only that we have a good time when we hang out. My friends recently brought it to my attention that he's been a bit rude to some of them, and my dad has mentioned it as well. The first time he met my dad, it was when he and a couple of my girlfriends were over hanging out at my house. My dad dropped in to say hello, and while my girlfriends greeted my dad, he just sat there, not saying anything or really acknowledging my dad in any way. I'm from an immigrant family, so respecting your elders is kind of a big deal, but his family is very much American, so I get why there might be some kind of discontent. I didn't say anything at the time because my dad told me not to make a big deal out of it, even though he was also annoyed by the situation. My friends also pointed out to me that when I first introduced him to them at the party, he did not really introduce himself or shake their hands or anything, which I'm kind of embarrassed to say that I didn't really notice. In addition, I've invited him to a couple of events and meals with my friends, and he rarely has a word to say. Now, both of us are introverts, so I can understand how my group of very loud, extroverted people, who are mostly women, can be super intimidating. But when I first introduced him to everyone, he seemed like he was genuinely trying to make an effort to engage with them. The last couple of events, I brought him and he mostly just talked to me, or scrolled on his phone the rest of the time, but he seems to get along with all of the guy friends that occasionally show up no problem. I've sensed that he is a bit uncomfortable at times, and I've tried to let him know, both in the moment and in general, that if he's not up for activities with everyone, we can split off and just do our own thing. But he's told me every time that he's fine with it, and I'm sort of left having to manage the awkward rift between him and my friends. I'm planning on talking to him about these things after my friends and I talk this weekend. They also recommended that I really take some time and process my emotions first, so I can figure out exactly what it is I'm upset with in our relationship. We've never really had a disagreement until now, and I don't even think he's picked up on the fact that I've been thinking about things. So I'm really trying to figure this situation out because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, it doesn't sound like your boyfriend's trying to be disrespectful in any kind of way. It really does sound like he's very introverted, and when he's around large groups of people, especially people that he doesn't know, he kind of shuts down and just kind of like stays to himself. Like, that doesn't seem like he's being very disrespectful at all in my opinion. It also really seems like the only times he's had the chance to like meet your friends or family is when it's in like a large group of people, not even on like an individual basis. So if he really is just like super shy in social situations and he's like really awkward and like trying to figure this stuff out, it kind of makes sense as to why he would be standoffish. But in that same note, I can't understand for a second why you or your parents would be like, wow, he's really rude. Like, that just doesn't seem like the case in the slightest in my opinion, and I'm pretty convinced that there's a lot more going on here than you're really aware of. So I don't know, maybe it's time to have a conversation conversation with him and try and figure out what's going on, as well as how to figure this situation out. Because I'm willing to bet that after 10 months, he's not trying to be rude to your friends or family. And if anything, he's probably just super awkward and shy, and he doesn't know how to open up to people that he doesn't know. Am I the jerk for being completely and brutally honest with my father when I explained why I was moving away and how I didn't feel connected with him in the slightest? Here's what happened. So I am not that close to my dad anymore. I was until I was about 13, but that changed. He either only realized it now or only started to care now that I'm living a more independent life, and he's not as involved as he wants to be. I was 8 when I lost my mom, and we were as close as ever, but I needed him more. Then when I was 11, he remarried, and he became a stepdad to a girl who was 10 at the time. Now, this is where full honesty comes in. I was so jealous that my dad was trying to bond with her, and that he called her his daughter, and the both of us his girls right away. It made me feel less special. It made me feel like I didn't matter as much, because how could someone so new to him be equal to me after hardly any time? Every time he spent time with her, I felt sick. He still spent time with me, but after 6 or 7 months of marriage, he started to spend more time with his stepdaughter, and I hated it. I was both devastated and furious that she was getting my dad. I was 13 when my dad said to me that he preferred hanging out with her over me because they had similar interests. He said he couldn't spend enough time with his stepdaughter, and he was hoping I would hit the teenage phase of not wanting my parents around me that much. He didn't say this to me, but I heard him say it. His best friend was one of the people he did say it to, and he was like, dude, don't say that out loud. And my dad said that most parents probably feel that way. He said that it wasn't like he would ever tell that to my face. He then admitted that he also resented me for not wanting his wife the way her daughter wanted him. He wanted us to be the perfect little family, and we looked like a step family where the step is always used because I didn't really want his wife for stuff. Well, I gave him his wish, and over the years, he increased the amount of time he spent with his stepdaughter. They could do stuff together up to 4 times a week. That was until she was about 16 and wanted space. He was devastated by that, and that crushed me. So I decided that was all I needed to know and didn't even try to get closer to him. He later approached me about the question why after I moved in with my boyfriend, and his dad helped us move our stuff. My dad said he expected to be called, and then he asked me why I had pulled away from him. So I told him everything, from the jealousy to what I heard him say, and I told him that I decided that I wasn't going to keep close like I had when he felt that way about me. Well, my dad was offended that I had ever been jealous. He told me it was disgusting to want to deny his stepdaughter the chance at a dad. He also told me that he should be allowed to have other interests in common with someone other than me. So I told him that he was, but I was also a kid who lost my mom and clung to my sole living parent. He then accused me of manipulating him by saying all that, so I told him he shouldn't have asked a question if he didn't want an honest answer. He then told me to get lost with that attitude and then said I should grow up. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? I find it very ironic that your father dodged the question where he basically said he resented you and didn't want you around. Like, he literally just skated around all of that. He attacked all the other issues that you had with him. How you were jealous at your stepsister, how you were stuck feeling completely left out, and how he ignored you and focused on her. He went after all that other stuff, but he didn't deny the fact that he didn't want you around. And it's like, buddy, you completely missed the point. This guy failed as a father and literally is his own downfall when it comes to you leaving his life. Like, seriously, you were a child at the time. You just lost your mother, and then suddenly your dad's like, oh, we've got a new family, time to get going. Like, seriously, that is tragic. That is so unacceptable, it's not even funny. I can only imagine getting treated that way and then trying to figure out what you're gonna do next with your life. Like, seriously, this is all his fault. He did this to you. And if he can't understand that, then that's literally his problem. It's almost as if once he got remarried and got a new stepdaughter, he tried to make them the center of his world, instead of, I don't know, grieving with the loss of his wife, as well as the loss of a mother to his daughter. If he was a better father, he would have looked inward and done everything he could to make your life better. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think you made the right choice of getting away from him, and if you really do decide to go no contact with your dad, he will literally have no one else to blame except for himself. My girlfriend of 8 years was caught texting another guy, and after breaking up with her and cutting things off entirely, we decided to get back together again. But now I'm so paranoid that she might try that again that I'm seriously at a loss and I don't know what to do. So for a bit of backstory, me and my my girlfriend have been together for 8 years on and off while I was away at university. Once I finished university, we reconnected properly and everything was great, or so I thought. One night I picked my girlfriend up after a night out and she was blackout drunk. I took her home, helped her get into bed, and that's when she immediately fell asleep. Well, her phone was in her coat that she'd left on the floor and I removed it, ready to try and put it next to her. This is when I noticed that it was non-stop vibrating. Wondering who could possibly be messaging my girl at 2 in the morning, I did something I'm not really proud of and I checked her phone. Well, it turns out it was a guy. Let's call him John. John is not his real name. And he was the one that was messaging her. I read back through the text messages and I was horrified. It had been going on for weeks. Nothing outrageous was being said, but the letter X was typed over and over again after each message. They had discussed going to a cinema together, though I don't think it actually materialized, as well as a lot of winky emojis. I confronted her the next morning, to which she tried to claim he was just a friend. But you know what? I called BS and I ended up breaking up with her. This lasted for a few months, where I briefly dated another girl before reconnecting with the current girl. She came to me and apologized for what she had done, saying that she was determined to change and that she was just insecure and fed off the attention but had no intention of ever meeting John. She started therapy and made a big effort to regain my trust, and eventually we ended up back together. She is no longer doing therapy and things are mostly good with us. That being said, I still don't fully trust her, and in a way I am paranoid. Anytime I see her with her phone and it's face down, or she's texting a long message, I immediately think the worst. On top of this, I saw a podcast talking about how women who cheat but are eventually forgiven never respect their partner afterwards, and it's only a matter of time before she does it again. So I am torn in this decision. My girlfriend really is a great person that I could see myself marrying, and yes, I get it. She made a mistake born out of her own insecurity, but she has made effort to change. However, I fear I cannot trust her fully after this, which could ruin our relationship down the line. So I'm honestly at such a loss and I seriously don't know what to do. First of all, you're very brave in getting back together with a girl that basically tried to cheat on you. I don't care what anyone else might think about this, to be honest. The fact that she was messaging another guy and trying to make plans or lead in a direction that was super sketchy, that in my opinion is an absolute deal breaker, and I would have moved on and gone to somebody else. So the fact that you went back to her honestly blows my mind. Seriously, why would you go back into a relationship with someone who you don't fully trust? You're already paranoid that she might be doing it again and going through one of her insecurity phases, which by the way, that's a massive cop-out and just complete BS in my opinion. She wanted to fool around with John, let's not get this confused for something that it isn't. And she used the excuse of, oh, I'm just insecure, as some kind of get out of jail free card, just so she can try and have some way out of this awful behavior. And sure, she's going to therapy and she's making a lot of effort to regain your trust and all this other stuff, and frankly, I think that's fantastic. But personally, in my opinion, I think it's too little too late. And also, I've got to clarify here, I don't think this was a mistake. She knew what she was doing. She texted this guy with the intention of meeting up, and the only reason that didn't happen was because you confronted her and broke up with her. So personally, whatever you decide to do, I would just be very careful, and I would be very measured on if this is what you want to deal with for the rest of your relationship. My dad humiliated me at one of my favorite stores at the mall, and now I'm dreading having to go back after the way that he treated me. Here's what happened. So about a month ago, I went to one of mine and my sister's favorite stores in the mall with my cousin and her boyfriend and got 2 anime figures for my sister's birthday coming up that month. However, I missed the return limit on the receipt as I didn't plan to return it. That is, until I decided to get petty and return it after my sister started to be mean to me. Well, my dad drove me and we went to return it. However, because the day limits had passed, I couldn't get any of the money back. But my dad, who I always had a strange relationship with emotion-wise, advised me to walk around the store, and so I did. I came back and not only did they return the figures, but they gave me $99 as a gift card to use up until January. I was happy, though I found out later I only got it because my dad went in deep detail to the cashiers about my autism and basically made it sound like I was an idiot. I always feel uncomfortable using my autism as some kind of pity reward, and I even hate going through the process of getting a fast pass during an amusement park trip. Anyways, November is my time of the year to go out of my way and buy gifts for Christmas, and I decided to use that gift card to pay for gifts for my cousin and my sister, with my mom entrusting me to get some stocking stuffers as well. well. I was left alone as my dad wandered the store and actually found a cool item for my cousins. It was an anime figure from my sister's favorite anime. Pricing wasn't a huge thing for me since I had the card and store rewards. The item was $23 and the figure was about $60. So added up, it would have been about $83 in total, which was fine. And so I headed up to the counter and was in the middle of paying for my products. The guy had just scanned the items and I got the gift card out when my dad finally showed up. He stood right beside me and looked at what I was getting. He saw the price of the figure and absolutely lost it. He said that it's way too much money and said that I couldn't return this item, which wasn't my intention at all. I just returned the figurine last time was to not reward my sister's behavior towards me and so I could get my money back. He then started telling the cashier to remove it. I argued back at him that it was fine, I have enough, and I wasn't going to return it. We went back and forth with him getting louder this time and actually told the guy to remove the figurine and then apologize for my behavior. I just stood there wanting to crawl in a pit and disappear. The cashier looked at me with obvious pity and discomfort about the whole thing as he removed the figurine. I paid and my dad decided to show other gifts I can get my sister instead. He showed me this mini LED mushroom light. It's cute, but she doesn't have room for it. He then showed me a plushie of her Hogwarts house. And again, it's really cute, but we have dogs that will rip it to shreds and she wouldn't like that. He then showed me this anime rice bowl. And again, it was cute, but we don't have room for things like bowls and cups. We left right afterwards and I'm dreading returning to that store after today. I know I have to in order to get my sister something, but I really do hate going to a store in the mall a second time in the same month. And now with my dad treating me like an idiot in front of so many people over $80, I can easily pay with or without that gift card because I saved up so much. So honestly, this is all so embarrassing and I'm really not looking forward to going back to that store. Yeah, what your dad did was really inappropriate. That was so intrusive and honestly just completely uncalled for. The fact that he called you out in front of the store clerk and basically prevented you from buying something that you very clearly and obviously could have paid for is so highly inappropriate and it's just not fair. You can't just treat someone like that and expect it to be okay. But trust me when I say this, on a lighter note, you can know for certain that none of those store clerks are going to remember that scenario. When I worked customer service, I ran into so many weird people it's not even funny. But with most of them, if not all of them, I honestly don't remember the people's faces. Like I could not spot them out of like a police lineup if I had to. Some of the situations I absolutely could, especially when you're treated like garbage. But in this scenario, it seems like your dad was just being a massive jerk and he really embarrassed you in a way that was so inappropriate. So hopefully you can remember that when you go back to the store because I guarantee that those cashiers are not going to care about what happened previously in the slightest. My entitled family constantly ropes me into babysitting all of their kids anytime I go to a family event or gathering. And after dealing with this since I was 14 years old, I finally decided that enough was enough, forcing my family to see that I will not be pushed around like that and that I refuse to take care of anyone's children against my will. Here's what happened. I never wanted to be a babysitter, but somehow that's what I always ended up being at every family gathering. It didn't matter if I barely knew the kids or the parents. They would always find a way to dump them on me and then disappear. It started when I was 14 years old and continued until I was in my 30s. I had moved away from my extended family when I was 5, so I didn't see them very often. But whenever there was a birthday, a wedding, or a holiday, they would invite me and my parents to join them, and that's when the trouble began. The first time it happened, I was sitting at a table with my cousin and his wife, who just had a baby. They seemed nice enough, but as soon as they finished their food, they handed me the baby and said they were going to get some drinks. They didn't ask me if I wanted to hold him or if I knew how to take care of him. They just assumed I would be happy to do it, but I wasn't. I had never held a baby before, and I had no idea what to do with him. He was tiny, fragile, and he smelled like milk and diapers. He started crying after a few minutes and I panicked. I tried to rock him, to sing to him, to make funny faces at him, but nothing worked. He just cried louder and louder, attracting the attention of everyone in the room. I looked around for his parents, hoping they would come back and rescue me, but they were nowhere to be seen. They had left me alone with their child without a word of explanation or apology. I felt angry and betrayed. How could they do this to me? This happened many more times over the years until I finally had had enough. The last time it happened, when I was now in my 30s, was at a party and gathering with my husband's family. I decided to take matters into my own hands. Once again, parents came over to to introduce themselves and left their baby with me, even though I clearly told them I was uncomfortable with them doing so. But then they'll say to me that, oh, it'll just be a minute. Well, 10 minutes pass, and then 30 minutes pass, and then finally the hour mark approaches, and the baby is getting very fussy. So I get up from the table, carrying the baby with me, and I walk towards the bar where I had last seen them. I push my way through the crowd of people, ignoring their stares and comments, and I finally spotted them, laughing and chatting with some other relatives with their glasses of wine in hand. They looked relaxed and happy, oblivious to my plight. And it was at that moment I decided I wasn't going to take this any longer. So after watching this baby for over an hour, I marched up to these entitled parents and I thrust the baby into their arms. I said to them, "Here you go, take your kid back." When I did this, they looked at me with surprise and annoyance. My sister-in-law then said, "What's wrong?" I looked at her incredulously. "What's wrong? You left me with your baby for an hour without asking me or telling me where you were going. You expected me to babysit while you had fun. That's what's wrong." They both exchanged shocked glances. The husband said, "Oh, we're sorry. We just wanted to catch up with everyone. We didn't think you would mind." I said to them firmly, "I do mind. I am not your babysitter. I'm your sister-in-law, and I came here to enjoy myself and not look after your kid." They mumbled some more apologies and excuses, but I didn't listen. I turned around and I walked away from them, feeling proud of myself for standing up to them. And I thought that would be the end of it, but boy was I wrong. The next time I saw them, they had another baby, and they tried to do the same thing again. And so did other relatives who had kids. And this was on multiple occasions, by the way. It honestly became a pattern. Every time there was a family event, someone would dump their kid on me and then disappear. It didn't matter if they were my aunts, uncles, cousins, or in-laws. They all seemed to think that because I was an only child, and because I didn't have any kids of my own, that I would love to play nanny for them. But they were wrong. I hated it. I hated being treated like a free service. I hated being ignored and taken for granted. I hated being stuck with kids who were noisy, messy, demanding, and sometimes just straight up rude. I hated missing out on the fun and conversations that everyone else was having. And I hated feeling like an outsider in my own family. So you know what? I stopped going. I stopped accepting their invites, and they didn't seem to notice or care in the slightest. They never asked me why I stopped coming along. They never apologized for what they did, and they never tried to make it up to me. They just moved on with their lives, without me and their family parties and events. Now, I didn't totally leave my family altogether. I still see them. I just never see them at parties or family gatherings anymore. And they just act like nothing ever happened and life goes on. I love hanging out with the family outside of like a party situation. And to be fair, the kids are great fun to be around as long as I'm not expected to babysit them, which I never once said I was okay with at any point. At the end of the day, we are all still family, and I think they got the message that I am not their babysitter. Honestly, good for you for standing up for yourself. I can only imagine how annoying that would be to literally go to every family gathering and then have like a truckload of kids dropped off at your feet as the parents just say, "Okay, see you later, we'll be back in a minute." Meanwhile, they're getting drunk at the bar and everyone's having a good time except for you. That really sucks, and that's super unfair. And unfortunately, when it comes to standing up for yourself against really entitled people, sometimes these people just don't care. They literally just see you as a babysitter, completely diluting your existence down to somebody who can just watch their kids for a while. So when you stop showing up, it honestly is not surprising to me that these people didn't notice or even try to reach out to you, which honestly says a lot more about them than it does about you. I mean, I know when I go to family events, I really want to have a good time. I don't go there to babysit other people's kids. I go there to meet with family members and have a good time and just catch up with people. But when you're being stuck with all these kids, it makes it like impossible to do anything like that. So honestly, overall, good for you for standing up for yourself. I would have done the exact same thing if I was in your situation, because the way your family was treating you was really unfair, and you did not deserve to be stuck babysitting all those kids, especially if you didn't agree to it in the first place. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not going to my friend's wedding? All because my girlfriend wasn't invited. Here's what happened. I first want to start off by saying that every name in this story is fake. So I'm a 26-year-old male, and I've been with my girlfriend by the name of Kelly for almost 5 years. A year and a half ago, my friend Maverick got engaged to his fiancée Brittany. I have been friends with Maverick for over 10 years. Maverick and I went to high school together, and our families are very close to each other. Maverick is in the military now, and we don't talk as much, but I still consider him a good friend. When Kelly and I started dating, dating, Maverick was dating a girl by the name of Ashley. Kelly and Ashley became very close, but Maverick broke up with Ashley 2 years later, and Kelly was sad she wouldn't be seeing Ashley regularly, but she still wanted to be friends. Well, very shortly, meaning like a few days after Maverick broke up with Ashley, he started hooking up and then started dating Ashley's roommate at the time. Kelly found out and called Ashley, and Ashley was crushed. A month after they started dating, Maverick introduced us to Brittany. Kelly was upset that this was Ashley's roommate, and she FaceTimed Ashley when she was around Brittany to make her feel bad. After this, Kelly was very upset with Maverick and sent him a series of messages saying she lost respect for him and some other mean things about Brittany. I think Kelly went too far, and I wasn't happy that she got involved. Eventually, Kelly ended up apologizing to Maverick. Since these incidents 3 years ago, we have not seen Brittany again. We have heard from others that Brittany is controlling about who Maverick sees, and she has refused to see us every time they have been in town. Maverick doesn't live in town anymore, so I don't see him all the time, but we have hung out 1 to 3 times a year when he visits our city. Kelly has seen him only once since the incident, and was civil and friendly towards Maverick. Well, Maverick and Brittany announced that they are getting married about 6 months ago. I found out that their wedding is the same day as Kelly's birthday. Kelly has been nervous for months that she wouldn't be invited, but I assured her that Maverick wouldn't do that. Well, I got the save the date about 6 weeks ago, and it was only addressed to me, but I didn't think that was weird. I texted Maverick and asked if I had a date, and he did not reply. I used their wedding website to RSVP about a week ago, and I was able to enter Kelly's name as well. Fast forward to yesterday, and Maverick texted me and said that he does not want Kelly at their wedding. He said that based on what happened with the girls, that he and Brittany are not comfortable with Kelly being there. Well, needless to say, Kelly is crushed. She wants to be with me on her birthday, and overall has a tough relationship with her birthday. Additionally, we got into a very big fight 2 years ago because I went to a family wedding without her. So honestly, am I the jerk for not going to my friend's wedding, all because my girlfriend wasn't invited? I don't think you're the jerk for not going to the wedding, but it's seriously so comical to me that your girlfriend's upset that she didn't get invited. Like, are you kidding me right now? She got involved in something she had no business getting involved in. Yes, she really did like Ashley as a friend, and she felt that Ashley was getting messed over by Maverick in some kind of way, but the way she went about handling this was so inappropriate and immature. Like, seriously, why on earth would you get in the middle of something like this? It honestly doesn't make any sense. Like, she willingly put herself in a weird position all over the fact that Maverick broke up with his girlfriend. Like, come on, why would you do that? And sure, I get it. Brittany is supposedly very controlling of Maverick, but from the sounds of it, it really doesn't seem like you know him that well anymore. You only see him 1 to 3 times a year, and it seems like he agrees with Brittany that no, we don't want your girlfriend showing up. So no, you're not the jerk for saying you don't want to go, but literally this is the consequences of your girlfriend's actions. And if she really wanted to be invited to that wedding, then she probably should have minded her own business. Am I the jerk for being upset at my boyfriend after he forgets to get me a gift for my birthday for the 2nd year in a row? Here's what happened. So I'm in a relationship with my boyfriend, and it's been almost 3 years together. I'm a 20-year-old female and he is 22 years old. We are mainly long distance, and last year he did not send a birthday gift to me, and I was very upset over this. Meanwhile, I sent him an entire cake, and his friend surprised him with it on the day of his birthday. Well, I thought that this year he would send a birthday gift and plan for it to reach me by my birthday, which is in September, essentially making up for it from last year. But you know what? He didn't. Not even flowers. I was so upset again, and we argued over this a few times, where he asked me to have some patience because he's putting something together. I finally blow up at him over this in the start of November, and he sends me his gift after the argument, which is something he clearly put together last minute. It was a cheap picture frame of a photo of us and a couple of cards that seemed to be put together in a rush. I always thought birthday presents were meant to be something you've wanted throughout the year, something meaningful or something you could do for yourself, like get your nails done or something like that. I was really upset when I received the gift, and I just blew up at him over it. It seemed like the things he wrote were just regurgitated text messages, very generic and nothing special, or little things he remembered about me in there. He said I was ungrateful because he only received $50 from me on his birthday this year, which I sent for him to get his hair cut, as well as for him to get food on me. I was upset that a shut-up gift was sent to me even after nothing last year, and even then it was sent to me 2 months late. I guess he realized he was in the wrong and promised to make it up to me next year. I feel like I don't deserve this. My friends and family say to leave him. Now, for some additional context, he visits me once or twice a year. I'm currently not able to visit him, even though he and I very much want to. He says that visiting is expensive, and it's what he does for this relationship, and just accuses me of being ungrateful for that. I very much appreciate him for that, but I feel like my birthday is one day a year where he could go out of his way to do something meaningful. And I mean even just try to do something. So honestly, I need to know, am I the jerk for feeling angry and hurt over this? Because at this point, I really don't know what to do. It is really sad that your boyfriend forgot your birthday. Like, he literally didn't do anything for your birthday 2 years in a row. And then when you start complaining, he's like, okay, fine, I'll send you something. And then what he sends you is literally just that. It's a gift and some cards just to get you to shut up and stop bothering him. It wasn't something meaningful. It wasn't something that you were really looking forward to. He just didn't want you to complain anymore. And that, in my opinion, is so insulting. I would be upset about this as well. Like, seriously? You've been in a relationship for 3 years, and 2 of those 3 years you can't even think about your girlfriend's birthday? It's not like he didn't know about it too, by the way. He absolutely knew what was going on, and he knew that your birthday was coming up, and he just still didn't plan on it. That's the part that honestly blows my mind. Like, for me personally, if I was the boyfriend in this situation, I would be like, okay, I don't want to mess up like last year. I have got to have something really special this year to try and make up for last year. Like, I don't know about you, but I would be like super stressed out about that. I would want to make sure that it's perfect and that I'm not doing something wrong, and that it all gets to my girlfriend, who, by the way, doesn't live next to me. This is literally a long distance relationship. Like, don't you think that gift giving and somehow like reaching out would be incredibly crucial for that kind of situation? So no, I don't think you're the jerk for getting upset. I think it's incredibly inappropriate that your boyfriend, once again for the 2nd year in a row, completely forgot about your birthday. And in my opinion, you have every right to be upset and angry with him. My mother-in-law is going through a lot of grief after her husband and her daughter passed away, but as a result, she has become completely unhinged, causing scenes and making awful remarks towards me and my husband. And I'm now at a loss, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I married my husband 4 months ago. We dated all through high school and college, so we have been in each other's lives and in each other's families for quite some time. My husband's father died when we were seniors in high school, and his sister passed away 3 years ago as well. Since then, his mother has been, in my opinion, unhinged. I cannot imagine her sense of loss, and I know everyone has their own grief process, so I really try not to judge, but she makes everything about her grief. She didn't come to our college graduation because she would never get to see her daughter graduate from college. We try to be especially kind to her on Mother's Day, but she spends hours at the cemetery and gets very irate if we leave before she's ready to. She insists that we give our first child her husband's name as a first or middle name, and gets angry when we say we'll name our future children as we see fit. There have been other incidents too. She's done so much to push my husband away while also relying on him for emotional and sometimes financial support. They now have a very unhealthy relationship, but it all came to a head when we were wedding planning. I invited her to come wedding dress shopping with me, my mom, my grandma, and my maid of honor. I told her that she did not need to come along if it was going to be painful for her, but she said she would be happy to. To all of our surprise, she showed up and brought a wedding gown that her daughter had purchased to save for her own wedding someday. She said it would help her if I tried it on, and I did, which made her cry. But then she insisted that it was my dress and I didn't need to get another one. After multiple refusals, she pouted the rest of the time, and let me tell you, it was so awkward for everybody else. This led to a lot of drama, to the point where me and my husband did not want her at the wedding because we couldn't trust her to not cause some kind of scene, and because we thought it would be terrible for her mental health. We asked her to not come, and she agreed not to. Well, I got to have a dance with my dad, and my mom surprised my husband by stepping in for a mother's dance with him. They smiled and laughed the whole time, and to me, it was the most special part of our wedding. I recently changed my Facebook cover photo to a picture of my husband and my mom dancing and laughing together. Well, my now mother-in-law saw this and has been coming at us for it, saying it's just a reminder that she was excluded from her son's wedding day. I told her I'm not taking it down, and that if she doesn't want to see it, she can simply not look at my Facebook page. She says I'm inconsiderate of her feelings and that I'm a jerk for this, all because it's driving another wedge between her and her son. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should should I do? It really sounds like your mother-in-law is not doing well mentally. First and foremost, no, you are not driving a wedge between her and her son. She is literally doing that herself. The way she's acting and pushing her grief on everybody else is really inappropriate and honestly really sad. She's clearly going through a hard time, but she's also doing nothing to try and fix her situation. Like, she's not talking to a doctor about being depressed or having a lot of pain in her life, and she's not going to the right people to try and figure this out. Instead, she's taking it out on her son and now her daughter-in-law. Like, honestly, with what you described, I don't blame you for saying, hey, don't show up to our wedding. You're just gonna cause problems and we don't want to deal with that. Because I would have done the exact same thing. Like, she tried to get you to wear her daughter's dress. Like, seriously, that's just really weird in my opinion. Now look, don't get me wrong. I totally understand that people go through a lot of grief and it takes people a long time to try and figure things out. But I really think that externalizing that grief and pushing it on other people and using it like a weapon to swing around and club people over the head with it, that in my opinion will only push people away. And nobody in their right mind should ever have to deal with that. Because in my opinion, after a few years of dealing with that, it is going to be the reason why nobody wants to talk to her anymore. So no, you're not the jerk for putting a picture up on your Facebook page of your mom and your husband dancing together. That is a beautiful memory you have every right to showcase to people online if you want to. And she has no right to try and decide what you can and cannot do with your life. My significant other is no longer contributing to the household, constantly pushing bills and other responsibilities on me to pay for, and now as a result, I'm literally living paycheck to paycheck. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So me and my significant other have been together for about 3 years, and before moving in together, all was good. Early on, before moving in, I had made double what she made, so I had contributed a little bit more to date nights and such. However, she always disliked her job because it simply didn't pay well. I had always provided resources since I am an HR worker, so I would give her stuff like resume reviews or interviewing tips and stuff like that. I have also helped her with starting a 401k and a savings account. On the job front, unfortunately, over the years, I was met with excuses. Then, almost 2 years ago, we moved in and worked with a budget to come up with something feasible. If I did the math, it was split at about 80-20, with me covering mostly rent while she covers small expenses like the dog insurance, groceries, and utilities. For a short time, that worked, but later on, it became more apparent that I had to chase her for her share. With inflation, her dog's medical expenses going up as well, not to mention rent going up, it became harder for her to help with those expenses, and I had to bleed some funds from my savings and put more on credit cards. I once had to open another card just to cover a $7,000 surgery bill for her dog every time I've addressed the expenses, and her needing to pay her share, I would then be met with a crying fit from her that her life sucks and that nothing is going well for her. So unfortunately, I ended up backing off and just dealing with it because I was afraid of making her feel like garbage. She would also even say that I make so much more, which is not true. I've had to show her spreadsheets of the impact, which leads to more crying from her. Recently, over the summer, she rage quit her job because of issues amongst the staff, so I truly had to expend more of our expenses. She ended up, after not working for 3 months, starting a retail job and taking a massive pay cut and then hating that job 1 month in because of the hours. I've given more advice and comfort to her because I understand it is an emotional time, but I'm also burnt out. I work a very demanding human resource job in finance, and that already adds to my stress, and I have my master's, so going for more schooling is out of the question. I simply cannot do it. But I'm also now living paycheck to paycheck, all due to her pay cut, and she is now helpless and makes excuses for everything. She doesn't want to go back to school, she's not looking for different fields or doing research, and she's just making excuses for not going to therapy for her depression and anxiety. My therapist has really helped me navigate through a lot of this, and has also honestly asked me if leaving her is on the table, and right now it really is. But I just feel like I've invested so much, and I don't want to give up, but my stress is through the roof lately. Plus, it would be messy, because she would have to move 2 hours to get to her family just to restart everything. I'm not sure what more to do, and I feel like I'm not doing enough as a partner. What more should I do to help her? Or how can I even solve these problems to begin with? What should I do? Honestly, it really sounds like you've done everything you possibly can to get things going. Like, you've given her advice, you've given her job leads and stuff like that, you've told her exactly how to do her resume and all this other garbage. footage. But instead of like doing something with her life, she just freaks out, has this self-pity party, and starts crying instead of doing anything to improve her situation. Like, that seems very manipulative in my opinion, and that is so uncalled for. For reference, the significant other in this story is 36 years old. They are old enough to know that they need to get off their butt and get to work. Like, seriously, they're not doing anything right now to contribute to the house. They're seriously just sitting there and letting the original poster handle everything. And that, in my opinion, is so inappropriate. That's not fair for them, and they are literally losing money in the process. Like, seriously, this sounds like a sinking ship, and she's the one to stand up and get her stuff together, because something absolutely has to change here. Because otherwise, this is only going to result in more money being lost. My entitled mother-in-law mocks my husband because of his nose, constantly saying that he should get a nose job, while also constantly putting him down at every chance that she gets. But now I discovered something that absolutely crossed the line, as she photoshopped my wedding photos with my husband just to make my husband's nose look better in her eyes. And I'm so disgusted and disturbed, I seriously now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a 27-year-old female, and I've been with my husband for 7 years. I remember that early in our relationship, one of the first things he expressed insecurity about was his nose, specifically about how wide it is. He never wanted surgery, but thinks his nose is too big for his face. I never thought that was true, and for a long time I wondered where he'd gotten that idea from. Then I met his mother, and all my doubts went out the window. I don't hate her, but the woman complains about everything, and she seems particularly interested in criticizing her sons. Barely anything about my husband or his older brother is good enough for her, and if it is, she is quick to imply that they don't deserve it. According to my brother-in-law, that behavior didn't start until their father passed away about 8 years ago, so they don't usually hold it against her. But to me, it seems like she legitimately doesn't want her children to be happy. Most times we talk to her, my husband ends up devastated. She constantly complains about me, his job, our apartment, and his appearance. She has on more than one occasion suggested he get a nose job. Now that really tends to upset him, so I always try to shut that down as quickly as possible. We got married in early May. The photos were ready about 2 months later, and we created a shared album on Google Photos for our family and friends, including my mother-in-law. I got pregnant during our honeymoon, and I'm now 24 weeks along. We've had problems with his mom concerning my pregnancy. I mean, we're having a boy, and she had a breakdown because she wanted a girl. So that has forced us to put her on an information diet. That was 2 months ago, and she has since improved her behavior. Because of that, we said yes when she invited us to go to a mall near her place to shop for baby clothes last Saturday. My husband had an emergency at work and ended up not coming, but we still managed to have a good time. When we were done, she invited me back to her place. I had not been there in a while, and I quickly saw that she'd gotten some of our wedding pictures up on the wall. And it's right then that I instantly noticed something was wrong with them, but I couldn't pinpoint what it was yet. My mother-in-law saw what I was looking at and proudly announced that she had finally gotten someone to fix my husband's nose. In other words, she gave her son a Photoshop nose job on his wedding pictures. And when she told me this, I was honestly completely blown away. I couldn't believe it. I never thought she'd stoop so low, and it wasn't even a good nose job. It was so bad that my husband's face didn't even look real. He looked like a Ken doll, and not in the hot Ryan Gosling kind of way. My mother-in-law must have seen how mad I got, because she instantly tried to defend herself. She tried to make the point that her son deserved to look his best on his wedding day, and I should have convinced him to get the real nose job before our ceremony. I made up an excuse to leave, but I could tell she knew the real reason. She's been calling and texting me almost every single day ever since. I've been ignoring her, but she's always either apologizing, accusing me of overreacting, or begging me not to tell my husband. I know it seems trivial, but I'm outraged, and the more I think about it, the more disgusted I get. I could never imagine doing something like that to my child. I haven't told my husband yet, mostly because we've both been busy with work this week, but also because I have no idea how to. His mother was finally starting to be a better person around him and his brother, and I know it will break his heart to find out about this. I don't know what to do. I have to tell him, but I can't figure out how. I know he loves his mother, and I don't want to damage whatever relationship they still have. She also mentioned that she intended to send the improved pictures to some of her relatives, so I have to find a way to try and shut that down. So I'm honestly wondering how I can tell my husband that his mother photoshopped his face on our wedding pictures, because right now I'm kind of at a loss. Before we go any further, the original poster actually has an update wait for us. Here's what they had to say. I first want to say thank you to everybody who took the time to offer some advice on my last post. First of all, I want to clarify that not telling my husband what his mother did was never truly an option. She wouldn't remove the picture from her house unless I either told him or threatened her. Had I done the latter, she would use that against me in the future or even imply I agreed with her. Plus, he was bound to find out at some point, and I knew it would be better if it came from me. So I was truly asking how to do it, not about whether I should or not. So I sat him down last Saturday and I broke the news. I explained what the pictures were and my mother-in-law's excuses for them. I also showed him the text messages that she had sent me since my visit. The whole conversation, I was calm and straightforward, but I also made it very clear that not only did her actions completely disgust me, but I never agreed with her about his appearance. He's the most gorgeous man I've ever met, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with his nose. I also made sure to point out that the Photoshop nose made him look like front-facing Phineas from Phineas and Ferb, and she needs to get her eyes checked if she really thought it looked good. I thought the news would hurt him, and you know what? I was completely right. He didn't cry or anything like that, but I could see it in his face. The odd but common combination of disappointment and acceptance. He knew his mother wouldn't change, but still had some kind of hope. It was almost heartbreaking to watch, but for the first time in a while, he seemed to believe me when I said his nose was normal. He told me that now that he knew just how ridiculous his mom was willing to be, her opinion meant a lot less to him. So even though he's hurt, he feels stronger than ever. As many of you suggested, I told him that he was free to approach the situation however he pleased, but I don't want to be around his mother anymore. Most importantly, I don't want her around our son or any other kids we might have. Not only because of the guilt-tripping tantrums that have become her standard behavior, but also because of the way she treats the people she's supposed to love. I know she loves her family, but I doubt she knows how love works. If she's willing to treat her sons like this, I fully expect her to be even worse to her grandchildren. In the end, my husband and I decided we're going very low contact with his mom until the holidays. Some of his relatives are throwing a party the week before Christmas, and she will be at that party. We thought about skipping it, but he has cousins he hasn't seen in years coming for that party. He's been looking forward to seeing them for months, and it just doesn't seem fair to let her ruin his excitement. But after the holidays, we'll decide how to proceed. Regardless, she won't be allowed to see our son at the hospital when he's born, and once we bring him home, she won't be left alone with the baby. It doesn't matter how much she tries to improve, that is not something we're willing to budge on. In spite of everything, my husband doesn't want to cut ties with his mother, and I understand that. Even if he wanted to, he can't go fully no contact without cutting off the rest of his maternal family as well, which he is firmly against. What works best for now is to treat her like Domino's Pizza. She exists and that's fine, but we are not getting involved until she actually improves. I also decided to tell some of my own family about this, and everyone I've talked to agrees that my mother-in-law went over the line. My father is a narcissist who I'm mostly low contact with, all because of his entitled behavior, and even he, with all things considered, was incredibly offended on my husband's behalf. We talked to my brother-in-law, and he's the one who informed my mother-in-law of our decision. Well, needless to say, she didn't take this news well at all. She's now trying to call both me and my husband, and keeps texting apologies and promises to take the picture down. But you know what? We're just ignoring her. My brother-in-law visited her yesterday, and apparently the pictures are gone. She believed that was enough for us to forgive her, but he clarified that there is still a lot of work that needs to be done. Now, before anyone calls us dramatic, this isn't just about the Photoshop. This is about the damage she's caused in both her sons' lives. I've dealt with similar things in my teens from my dad's exes, and I refuse to allow my child to grow up believing he's anything less than beautiful. And honestly, the same thing goes for my husband. Yeah, that's an awful thing for the mom to do in that situation. Like, seriously, why do you have to be so mean and be like, wow, your nose is ugly. You should try and get a nose job to fix your ugly big nose. Like, what kind of mother would treat their son like that? So truly good for you and your husband for putting your foot down and setting up some very clear boundaries, because it's abundantly clear that she's incredibly toxic towards you and your husband. And I honestly don't blame you for not wanting that in your life. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not taking my sister's side about her exclusive wedding choices? Because at this point, she literally won't drop the subject, and I'm kind of at a loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my sister is getting married late next year after a really long engagement. Her fiance has a large family, and she's getting a lot of pressure from his mom to invite a ton of people. She's going for a more expensive venue with a smaller guest list. As a result, she isn't inviting a lot of people's partners, including the best man's boyfriend and my mother-in-law's partner with whom I cohabitate. Initially, I was told I would get a +1 to invite my best friend and old college roommate who lives overseas in the United Kingdom. She spent Christmas with us while she couldn't travel due to COVID and her parents being healthcare workers, so she stayed with the family. Since I moved in with my partner and my friend moved back to England though, my +1 has been rescinded and he has not been invited. Since some people have been responding to the RSVP request with a no, I thought he might end up getting invited, but he still hasn't been. She's met him many times and even stayed in our home with us. My mom, totally without my knowledge, even offered to pay for my partner to be at the wedding because my parents wanted him there. But after this, my sister got in touch saying that he couldn't come at all. She cited expenses, even though mom said that she'd help with it, while also saying that it would be a slippery slope, while also not wanting me to spend the whole day with him so that I could instead focus on her. She stated that if she invited my partner, she'd have to invite the best man's partner as well. Well, I told her that in that case, I understand the best man's frustrations with his other half not being there. I told her that this choice is going to result in people being upset and she just might have to stomach that. She keeps saying that she is scared that I'm going to hate her and that I'm adding to people making her feel bad about her choices, despite the fact that she's the one that brought it up. She stated that she thinks everyone is turning against her and she seems to want me to take her side and be okay with it, but I kind of just can't do that. I genuinely think she's wrong to not invite long-term partners of immediate family. She keeps asking me if I'm going to hate her forever, and I say no, I may disagree with her, but I'm not some kind of grudge-bearing child. But despite all that, she won't let it go. It's like she wants me to tell her I agree with her decision. My partner is my best friend in the world. We have a dog and a whole life together. If anyone else did this, I just wouldn't go to the wedding, but it's my sister and I'm the maid of honor, so I'm going to have to go, but I'm kind of mad at her. I don't want to go on about it and bring it up again. I just simply won't take her side. She's making me feel really bad, like I'm victimizing her by being upset or something like that. I mean, am I making it about me? Should I just drop it and support her choice? What should I do? Honestly, it really seems like she's trying to validate her choice by having somebody on her side. Everybody's upset at her, and for good reason. Like, people are saying, no, I'm not going to show up. I'm not going to reserve a spot because my significant other can't show up. And in your case, she's basically saying, no, I don't want them here. And then she goes on to claim that it's all about her, and that if your partner's there, then you're not going to focus on her special day. That's the dumbest excuse on planet Earth, and that's a complete lie. Because here's the truth. She could easily reverse this right now and be like, hey, if you got invited, you can bring one other person with you. That's it. And then this could literally be solved like overnight. This is one email to everybody that got invited right then and there. She could send out that message and just solve all of her problems. But instead, she's trying to like double down and find somebody that can support her. And that, in my opinion, is just so unacceptable. So no, you are not the jerk in this situation. You didn't do anything wrong. And honestly, I understand where you're coming from. This is your sister after all. So you do kind of have to be there to some extent. But in my opinion, that absolutely does not mean that you have to cave and agree with your sister's stupid decisions. My boyfriend and I have different standards of cleanliness. And as a result, I find myself doing 90% of the household chores while he constantly makes a mess. And at this point, I'm so utterly frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been with my partner for just over 2 years now. We have been compatible on a lot of levels, but lately we've been running into some roadblocks with cleanliness. I grew up in a pretty messy house. My family typically put off cleaning until things really started to build up, and I realized that when I lived on my own, I tried to be way more organized. My partner's family has always been very clean. No clutter left on any surfaces, the sink was empty, cushions were neatly arranged on the couches, you get the idea. For my partner, however, cleaning is not his strength. When he lived at home, his bedroom was always the only messy room in the house, and since we moved in together about 5 months ago, I've noticed he especially has a tendency to just leave things after he uses them, whether it's his jacket or a bag sitting on the floor by the door, or even cushions and blankets lying randomly on the couch. And this also includes beer cans or drinks that are left on the tables, as well as cereal boxes left on the counter. He earns more money than me, so he pays about $250 more on rent. As a result, I agreed to work a little bit extra around the house with dishes, vacuuming, laundry, as well as other things. And while I am completely fine with this, it seems like I'm doing 90% of all the household chores. My partner is very busy. He works 2 part-time jobs and 1 full-time as a teacher. Not because he needs the money, but because he likes being busy. He would still be entirely financially sound if he just worked his teaching job. As a result of his schedule, when he gets home, he's absolutely tanked and understandably needs the remainder of the day to rest. I work about 35 hours a week, but tend to start work at around 5 o'clock in the morning and finish work at around 1 o'clock. So I'm typically home for a lot more of the day than he is. I spend about 2 hours each day cleaning, but a lot of my time is spent doing really small things, like cleaning up some of the things that he left behind that could have easily been dealt with in the moment. And moreover, if I don't deal with them myself, it's usually days, if not weeks, before he takes care of them himself. For example, we still have the Halloween decorations he put out because he has procrastinated taking them all down. I began to take them down and asked if he could finish the cleaning, and he agreed, but then did not follow through. They are all his decorations, as Halloween is his favorite season, and he likes to go all out. Lately though, I've been admittedly getting more frustrated with the buildup of clutter, and I feel like I've been nagging him more than usual, especially because he's been working so much that the little time we do have together usually involves me saying something about the condition of the house. Yesterday, we got into an argument about our standards of cleanliness, and he said that being clean and organized is just not for him. I said I am more than happy to do the big things in the house, but I do need him to make more of an effort to do the small things. He told me that I am excessive with the cleaning, and I don't need to do all the tasks I often do. He also said I need to learn to live with some kind of mess, because he is generally not a very organized person. This frustrated me, because I expressed to him how important a general clean space is to me. I also have never commented on the condition of our room and bathroom, which has his clothes and belongings all over the floor. I told him that he has his space, but that I would like the main floor to just remain tidy, but I just can't maintain it all by myself. I told him that it would be a lot easier for me to clean if I didn't have to start by cleaning up a lot of the small messes that keep getting left behind. Stuff like disorganized pillows and blankets, shoes being left out, or even food being left out. But he seemed to interpret this as me saying, "Oh, I'm annoyed because you don't fix the pillows on the couch." On top of this, my partner wants to adopt his own dog, which stresses me out even more with how little he is at home. I know the dog will largely become my responsibility, and on top of all the cleaning I do, it seems like way too much. I feel like I'm being responsible, but he really doesn't seem to even be open to compromise. I recognize that I can probably be more lenient on the clutter, but I keep my mouth shut about the bedroom and upstairs and need a shared space where everything is in its place. I'm so frustrated, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. This really is a tricky situation because this guy works 3 jobs. He's a teacher on top of 2 part-time jobs, all just to stay busy. And last I checked, at least during the school year, teachers are plenty busy with what they have going on. So it's really surprising to me that he would be working so much all the time. But on that note, I really do think he needs to do his fair share. Like, this guy's obviously leaving all of this housework to you, and he doesn't respect the fact that you do so much around this house. You're cleaning up, you're getting things tidy, and overall, you're keeping things really nice downstairs. And you put it best, you haven't said anything about the room the 2 of you share, which in my opinion is a big thing that definitely needs to be considered. So with all of that in mind, I don't think that you're being unreasonable in the slightest. I definitely think your partner can step up and do more around the house, because right now it sounds like he's resistant to doing anything around the house at all, and that in my opinion is completely inappropriate. Am I the jerk for telling my stepmom that she needs to accept that she will never be my real mother? Here's what happened. So my parents divorced when I was a baby, and my older brother was 2 at the time. Our dad remarried just a year after the divorce, and they created a blended family. Dad had us, and our stepmom had 2 boys who were pretty much the same age as my brother and me, and they have 3 more boys together. My parents split custody of my brother and me, and we always knew life with both parents. We also always knew life with our stepmom, but we still knew that our mom was our mom and our stepmom was our stepmom. I have never considered my stepmom equal to my mother in my life. My mom comes first. If I want motherly advice, I go to her. It's my mom that I want when I'm upset. And my stepmom is fine, but she is not my mother. Now, one thing about my stepmom that really makes me awkward around her is that she always wanted to be a mom to a daughter, since she has no girls. Well, she apparently latched onto me from the time she and dad got serious, and my grandparents and aunts and uncles said that she used to try and dress us in matching stuff. She has this weird fixation on me. She's not upset that my brother considers her second best, but it bothers her that I don't consider her my mom. She tells me every year just before Mother's Day that she would love for me to call her on that day while I'm with my mother. She will also ask if I want to do some mother-daughter Mother's Day event with her every year, and I always say no. Then I get to see her face fall and she'll start crying. I don't have that kind of love for her, and I'm not sure I actually do love her. She makes me so uncomfortable with her obsession with me being a girl for her. My mom joined me for a mother-daughter photography trip that was going on for my photography club. We were gone for an entire day and had a great time. Well, my stepmom saw photos of us on social media, and she cried at me asking why I invited my mom when it wasn't even Mother's Day, and then said that I could have invited or asked her instead, and we could have done something cool like that as well. She told me how much she longs to get the experience of being a mom to a daughter. So I told my stepmom that she will never be a mom to a girl, and that I will always be my mom's daughter and not hers. She told me she's been in my life since I was literally a toddler, and that I should see them both as my mom, especially since I spend the same amount of time with both of them. She said it's disgusting that I would reject her over and over again and then tear her down like that when she could easily be my second mom. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? It really sounds like your stepmom's being like super pushy. She clearly is jealous of your actual mom, and she's now trying to take it out on you by guilt tripping you into basically doing all these like mother-daughter things with someone who is not your biological mother. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't know anything about this woman other than the fact that she's like obsessed with you, so I don't know if she's like mean at home or anything like that. I don't know if you're being standoffish and she's really trying to be involved or something like that, so I can't say whether or not you should like throw her a bone and try and develop a better relationship, or if it's a good thing to try and stay away and set some boundaries. But based on what you've described, this would honestly make me very annoyed. I can only imagine having a step-parent acting like that towards me and being like, wow, I'm so glad I have a son in my life. It's like, sure, that's great, but this obsession over me really does not seem healthy, and I feel like this kind of falls in line with what you're dealing with as well, at least from what we know. So honestly, I don't think you're the jerk in this situation. Just because she's been around since you're a toddler shouldn't automatically mean that you've connected with her on the same way that she's obsessing with you, because that in my opinion is super weird, and it shouldn't be your problem to manage her emotions. My entitled manager ignores several health code violations that I pointed out to him, choosing instead to make my life a living nightmare after I tried to do the right thing and point them out in the first place. But thankfully, karma came back for my general manager in a fantastic way, as this guy was fired on the spot by corporate for all the violations that he ignored, as well as the time theft he committed on his employees. And I've never been happier to watch someone get taken down in my life. Here's what happened. So around the beginning of the pandemic, I landed a job at a well-known US fast food chain. The general manager was a tall and stocky bald guy. He really liked my interview, so from the very beginning, he told me that he hired me with the intention of making me a manager someday soon. So I busted my butt every single day proving my worth, often doing the work of a full staff all by myself. I worked this hard because my previous job had just laid me off due to the effects of the pandemic on the hospitality industry, and so I was just happy to have a job. In order to become a manager, you had to take a serve-safe exam. Usually, you would get promoted whether or not you passed the exam, but per the state law, there was always to be a serve-safe certified manager on duty at all shifts. Given that there were so few of us, 3 managers in total, including my general manager, that certificate was absolutely invaluable. But I'm getting ahead of myself. One day in the middle of my shift, the general manager approaches me with a book to study for my certification. I'm excited because I know that this means a promotion and a significant pay raise. I study this book like my life depends on it, with every moment that I get throughout the day spent in the book. I'm a quick study, and I progress rather well through the book. But there is one major issue. The more that I read, the more I discover that there were so many health violations happening at the workplace. A lot of these fast food workers aren't being paid enough to care about cleanliness, and most places will be okay with the appearance of cleanliness. I mean, there was improper food storage, cross-contamination, changing the dates on expired products, just to name a few. We even had minors working in the kitchen. I decided to approach the general manager about my concerns, hoping that we could get to work on fixing a few things. this? Well, instead, I met with him snarling back at me. He says to me, "Just do what I say." And when he said this, I was completely shocked. And as a result, he begins to make my life absolutely miserable. He would intentionally short-staff the shifts that I worked because he knew that I wouldn't complain about doing extra work. And then when our numbers suffered, because there was literally 3 of us doing the work of 8 people, he would bark at me at the beginning of the next shift in the presence of my coworkers. He went in deep, calling me worthless and all types of names just to degrade me. He would normally threaten my job about 2 to 3 times during a shift. I actually began to gaslight myself into believing that I was in the wrong and to just work harder. It didn't really click that I wasn't doing anything wrong until one day when I stopped by during the morning shift. Now, typically I work the nights, so I just so happened to be checking in on something. It's right then that I noticed the morning manager clocked in, then they go back outside to smoke and have breakfast. I was so shocked because no one said anything. I approached one of the morning guys that I knew I could trust and asked him if this was a normal occurrence. He said yes, along with so many other things that this female manager got away with that I would probably be fired for on the spot. During this entire fiasco, after many breakdowns where I would go to the freezer to cry, I finally did it. I passed the Serve Safe exam. I was very proud of myself. Well, if my life was miserable before, I simply don't have the words to begin to describe what my life became after I got certified. Apparently, and I have no way of verifying this, the general manager became threatened by me and intensified my misery. Now, I forgot to mention that in an attempt to save money so his numbers would look good, he would literally make some workers work days for free. Now, let me explain. I noticed that some employees would work double 5 days a week and get paid the exact same as the workers who work normal hours. People, listen to me. Hard work is rarely, if at all, rewarded in the United States. This man would manipulate the time clocks to essentially force some of the more gullible employees to work overtime and only get paid for 40 hours. I kid you not. There was this young girl fresh out of high school who would somehow manage to work 70 plus hours a week and only get paid for 40, and she somehow thought that this was normal. But here's the kicker. While he was manipulating the clocks against some of these kids, he would always be on the clock even when he'd leave for the day. I mean, one day I had the audacity to clock him out, all because, he wasn't at work, and this man gave me the tongue lashing of a lifetime next time he saw me. Now, here comes the karma, and trust me, it was so sweet. The thing about cosmic justice is that it has a sense of humor and irony. I specifically remember that in one of my general manager's tirades, he would tell me that I would be coming in here as just a customer and not an employee at some point. And please keep this in mind because this will be important for later. So a random Tuesday morning, I'm still recovering from last night's shift when I get a phone call from one of the morning employees. She can barely get a word out in utter shock, but I made out what she was trying to say. She said on the phone, "They just fired the general manager." I let out this maniacal laugh that I'm sure my entire neighborhood could hear. I laughed to the point of crying. So apparently the store was doing so bad that it caught corporate's attention. They sent a couple guys to do an audit, and get this, they pointed out every violation that I had previously pointed out to the general manager. It was so bad that they fired him on the spot. The corporate guys became our acting general manager. The store had to be shut down for a couple of days just to fix everything. And get this, remember how the general manager said that I would one day come in the store as a customer and not as an employee? Well, guess who ended up coming in to order food a week after being fired? I almost snapped my ankle running to the front to serve him with a smile. To make matters worse, his wife actually left him after he was fired. Apparently, he was cheating on her with a morning shift manager. So it finally made sense now how she just got away with everything. We only found out because she used his phone to text the work group chat, exposing the affair to literally everybody. It felt great to be validated and vindicated for everything I pointed out. Over the next couple of weeks, we went through a couple of general managers from neighboring stores who came in to fill in. Eventually, things got way better, and I left the job a few months later for health reasons and got a better job that paid twice what I was making back there. And it's honestly just so satisfying to watch the cosmic justice of karma drop down directly onto my former general manager. Yeah, your former boss is a complete idiot. Seriously, why would you not want to fix any of the health code violations in your store? Like, did he really think that nobody was going to inspect him? Like, I'm pretty sure it's a normal thing for a health code inspector to come along and look at your store. And don't even get me started on the fact that he was taking advantage of his staff. Like, seriously, this guy is a scumbag. He literally literally would have people work, 70 hours a week, and then only log them, 40 hours a week just to try and take advantage of them? That is such an awful business practice, and seriously, I can't believe he got away with that for so long. I mean, you really did try to warn this guy. You tried to point out things that would make the store a better place. And you know what? You worked incredibly hard. You tried to prove your worth and show him that yes, you can get it done and you can be trusted to be a manager. But just like all jobs with corrupt bosses, this guy clearly had ulterior motives. Not to mention the fact that he was having an affair with someone you worked with. Like, just imagine if you did become a manager and then you would have to deal with that on a daily basis. Like, it's probably better that this guy never promoted you. But honestly, through it all, good for you for standing your ground and at least trying to do the right thing. Because this guy was a complete idiot. And if he knew what was good for him, he would have made those changes if he actually valued his job. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My girlfriend said that I'm being unreasonable for refusing to pay 50% of the utility bill after it increased. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I live in the UK with my partner, and for most bills we pay 50-50. Now, there are some exceptions. For example, if one person wants something that the other person doesn't, then that person pays. So I pay monthly for a Wi-Fi booster and some streaming services that my girlfriend uses but doesn't necessarily need. As it's getting colder, we've started using the heating more often. I barely use it since I'm not too cold, but my girlfriend has been starting to put it on more for most of the day. I'll be sat in the apartment too hot, asking to turn it off or down, but she'll refuse. If it was up to me, we'd have used it maybe twice in the last 6 weeks, but because of my girlfriend, it's on most of the time. We pay what we use for our utilities instead of a set direct debit, and we got the bill this month, and it was over £65 more than usual due to the heating. I showed the bill to my girlfriend, and she said there's nothing we could have done to get it lower. Well, I told her that I didn't really want to be paying the extra since it's only her using it, and she's the one who refuses to consider turning it off when I ask. She disagreed and said we should be splitting it since we're both benefiting from it. But I pointed out it's not a benefit for me because I'm too hot and I don't actually want it on. She said we're supposed to be a team, but I just mentioned that if that were true, she would listen to me when I mentioned turning it off or turning it down, but she only wants to have things her way. She said I was being unreasonable and that I should pay my half, but I really don't think that I should. So honestly, I'm now at a loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, this is like super inappropriate, but not from the original poster's girlfriend. I really think the original poster is being super selfish. He is trying to nickel and dime his girlfriend in a way that is so inappropriate. This guy is seriously getting upset over $65 on the heating bill? This guy does know that winter exists, right? So sometimes when it's cold in the house, you've got to turn on your heat. And for you to be like, oh, I don't get any benefit from this, but it's like, what are you talking about? You live in the same house. Like, of course you're benefiting from this, even if you don't like it. It's also super inappropriate how the original poster twisted the words of his girlfriend. She said, hey, we're supposed to be a team. Why can you not help me with this? But in reality, he doesn't want this to be a team. He wants this to be a dictatorship. This guy would rather have his girlfriend listen to everything he says and do things his way instead of letting his girlfriend, I don't know, have free will and choice. I don't know, this just comes off as super entitled and really sketchy in my opinion. And I'm not saying that the girlfriend isn't also nickel and diming the original poster. Like, there might be things going on that would probably be super obnoxious that the girlfriend is doing in this situation, but we probably don't have enough info to try and get some kind of fair assessment. But honestly, from what we know, it really seems like the original poster is being super selfish. And in my opinion, if $65 is gonna make or break your relationship, then I really think you've got bigger problems than the heating bill. Am I the jerk for banning my mother from my wedding after the way she's been talking about my future husband? Here's what happened. I started seeing my boyfriend 5 years ago, soon after I moved out of my mom's house. It took about a year before I introduced them, and as soon as I did, my mom made her disapproval very obvious. She suggested he wasn't good enough for me because of his job title, his income, and education level. She said he was weird and that I should be with someone normal to make me more normal. She said she wasted her money putting me through college because I didn't meet my future husband there like she did. Gradually, she laid off all the negative comments and seemed to finally accept him. I didn't think anything of it when I invited her to our wedding because I thought everybody invites their mom to their wedding. She was supposed to even walk me down the aisle since my dad passed away a few few years ago. Then yesterday, I was at my mom's house with no one else there. She said to me, "Make sure he has a nice suit so we can pretend like you're going to marry a successful man." Then she started laughing hysterically at her own joke. I said to her, "If you don't like who I'm getting married to, then don't come to my wedding." Then her mood suddenly changed and she yelled at me. She said, "That is no way to talk to your mother." Well, I ran out of there in tears. I then went on to think about how my mom has talked about my fiance. I realized that nothing she could say to me now would make me comfortable with her at my wedding. We would have to change a few plans last minute, but I would be much happier without her there at this point. So I texted her, and I told her my decision was final and she was not coming. My mom says I'm overreacting to a harmless joke, and that the whole family will be shocked by my decision, and she will be humiliated. She said if I didn't want her there, then I should have told her from the start, and that there's no way I was changing my mind over that one joke. So I need to know, am I overreacting by making such a drastic decision at the last minute? Am I being too harsh on my mom? What should I do? Honestly, I don't think you're overreacting in this regard. Your mom is being very toxic towards your fiance, and it seems like it's been like this from the beginning. Like she seriously just puts him down at the drop of a hat. She doesn't like his job or how much money he makes. She doesn't like his education level. It honestly seems like she doesn't like this guy, and he will never be able to impress this lady pretty much ever. And that's not fair for you or your fiance. I mean, imagine this from your fiance's point of view. He is already starting at such a low point, all because of what your mother was saying about him. Like honestly, who would want that kind of energy on their special day? I know if I was in your shoes and my mother was acting like that, I would probably go the same route as well. I mean, you thought everything was fine. You thought she was going to act normal at the wedding ceremony, and she was going to be somewhat supportive in some kind of way, but it's obvious she wants to be toxic. And guess what? If she wants to be toxic, then that behavior can absolutely be rewarded with her being uninvited. Like she has no one to blame except for herself. And in my opinion, it's a good thing to keep her out of this wedding. So no, obviously you are not the jerk. All of these jokes that your mom was trying to pass off in some kind of like passive-aggressive manner are not jokes at all in my opinion. But instead, those are her actual thoughts about your future husband, and personally, I would not want to put up with that on my wedding day in the slightest. Today, I messed up by getting fired from my job, and now I'm concerned about how I'm going to pay for my rent, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So I want to start off by saying that this story has been a situation for about a month now, and also, it has been 3 years in the making. But this has all started before I got this job. I was running out of savings that I got from a previous job and was assisting a medical call center that ended up liking me to the point where they recommended me to some leads who were working in the same building. So after sending an application and landing an interview, I got a job as a medical biller for some medical consultants. Now, a thing about me is that I sometimes would talk to myself if I'm under stress, trying to figure out if I did something wrong, or in this case, if I have a random scenario in my head and would act as if I was in that situation. And so I had this scenario where I was given something confidential or important, let's say a USB with a patient's information for an example. And in that scenario, I would pretty much refuse to take on that task because of how often I lose or misplace my own stuff, as well as just completely forget them. So fast forward about 3 months later, and I've been tasked with printing out some patient and faculty documents in order to send them out to the post office. But there were some times that some prints didn't come out correctly, or I would want some clarification on it, so I would put those to the side and get to them later, only to then completely forget about them. And so on 2 separate occasions within that month, people were being moved around to different cubicles and offices, myself included. So on the second relocation, something came up. I completely forgot a patient document where I was previously working at that was now very late, and it was about a week late. And then soon after, I come to find out that I've done that already at my first desk with another one, and this was almost a month late for that one. So when the second incident occurred, my boss pretty much told me that if it happened again, I would be fired. So I've completely forgotten about a patient's information twice, all within 1 month. And my brain knew something like this was going to happen before I even got started, which honestly is not a lot of fun. So after all that happened, I knew that I wasn't gonna make it for long, but I had responsibility, so I stuck around despite it. So throughout the years, I've dealt with the following: a failure to meet a deadline because I thought I had 30 days instead of 28. I've had multiple times where either the bus taking me to work showed a minute early, or I'd see it pass by me, or when I got off work, I would sometimes wait 2 to 3 minutes, all the way up to 2 hours, only for 3 buses to show up all at once. At that point, I would just walk all the way home, which would take me about 45 minutes to an hour. I also had friction with my roommate and sister to the point that I was trying everything in my power to not start a fist fight. A new rule was then implemented to where they've banned using headphones, so if I want to listen to music, I had to use a speaker at a certain volume. A few times at work, I wouldn't be able to finish up everything, so I would clock out and stay over to finish up on my own time, which they absolutely didn't like. And on 2 separate occasions, I've overslept and I've been an hour late to work. There was also a coworker who I was working with that left to become a realtor, but before that, he dumped about 250 statements on me. So now, coming to this year, things were looking up. I've moved to another apartment that made it where I could just walk to work while my sister moved to another state. And I let my mom in because she got recently kicked out of my older sister's house and was also working at home. But on the other hand, at this point, I was straight up miserable. I couldn't have my headphones in, so I couldn't focus for anything. I'm not exactly fully awake since I pretty much hate waking up in the morning, and my head was like screaming. I couldn't do anything to quell the noise. So you might be wondering, what ended up getting me canned in the first place? Well, I forgot to clock back in from lunch 4 times within a month. So I ended up getting fired, and I had to break the news to my family, and they understood the situation, and my mother told me to take a break, file for unemployment, and start looking for work, which I did. But then, recently, I found out that I'm getting help from unemployment. And shortly after that, my mom's dad passed away, and now she is being burdened with the funeral cost since she's the only descendant still alive. And I also didn't save up anything, so I'll probably have barely enough for the upcoming rent, basically making me broke. So now I maybe have 1 to 2 months to get another job, or I'm gonna be out of my apartment. And at this point, I really hate my life, and I'm seriously not sure what to do. Okay, take this with a grain of salt, but it really seems like the original poster has ADHD of some kind. And I'm not a doctor or anything like that. I'm speaking purely from personal experience, because I myself have ADHD, and let me tell you something, I've experienced everything the original poster's talking about. I've had trouble getting up in the morning, I've had trouble focusing at work, I've had trouble getting things done in my life, if not just forgetting things altogether at work or in my house. Like seriously, I understand where you're coming from. And for me, going to a doctor and figuring out exactly what's going on inside my brain made a massive difference in my personal, private, and professional life. And again, I'm not a doctor, but honestly, it really reflects on my own experience in dealing with ADHD. So while this situation does suck, there's a very good chance, just based off of personal experience, that there might be something else going on here that the original poster is just not accounting for. It's either that or they just suck at planning. Like, it really seems like they're not being forward thinking with their future, they're not saving up money, they're not doing what they need to do to get to work on time or to clock in and out on time. Like, if you're really that forgetful and this isn't some kind of like attention problem or anything like that, then in my opinion, I think maybe using your phone as like a reminder, or at least as some kind of like alert to remind you, hey, I need to clock in and out, or even check your time at work or like anything like that, I think that might make a big difference in your future job. Because here's the thing, I think they're completely right to fire you. I know that sounds really bad, but you've forgotten to do a lot of things, and at this point, they've probably given you like every opportunity in the book to straighten out your behavior and figure this out. So yes, you did get fired, but at least you can move forward and find a better job. Because this honestly is not the end of the road when it comes to working. And I think with this future job, you can have a fresh start and try and do things differently. An entitled Karen steals gas from everybody in my apartment complex, siphoning it right out of everybody's gas tanks, all under the assumption that she deserves it way more than we do. And I'm honestly blown away by her entitlement, and I'm so happy that she got arrested by the police. Here's what happened. So 5 days ago, I was about to leave for my morning commute to university in the morning when my car failed to start up. What struck me as odd was that the fuel gauge said that I was out of gas. But here's the thing, I filled the tank up yesterday. I told my mother what had happened, and she allowed me to use her car. However, the same issue happened with her car as well. We would find out we weren't the only ones with this problem. As the day went on, the neighbors in the apartment complex faced the same issues with empty fuel tanks, and this is much to their shock and chagrin. This brought some complaints to the management about this incident, so I simply walked to the closest gas station with 2 gas cans to fuel up my car just to get back there to repeat the process with my mother's car. My father was already at work at 4 in the morning at the donut shop. I missed classes that day and had to self-study on the topics I struggled to understand. I later learned that not all the cars had their gas stolen. I think the cars in the front parking lot were the only ones affected. That parking lot is the smallest one out of the 7 in total, and it's the only one not gated. Just this morning, the culprit culprit was caught by a neighbor who decided to look outside for some reason and saw her siphoning gas from a car. Well, he called 911 and the police put the cuffs on her. From what my other neighbors claim, the woman siphoned gas so that she wouldn't have to pay for it. Her defense was since we could pay rent, we could also afford to simply give gas away. Now here's the thing. For a 3-bedroom and 2-bathroom apartment for families, the rent is $1,400 per month. A lot of my neighbors were employed in low-paying jobs, which limited their monthly spending, and that included their gas budget. I mean, I remember a man crying because he would be late for work and might lose his job. Plus, he told everyone who comforted him that he couldn't afford to pay the extra $40 to get a full tank. Well, another man fortunately was willing enough to give the man enough money to pay for gas when he was able to fill up his car with a gas can I used to fill up mine. So as a result, this lady was being detained at the local police station, and hopefully we never have to deal with her ever again. Wow, that is honestly like some next level entitlement. The fact that she went into some low income apartment complex and said, yeah, these people don't need gas money. Since they can pay rent, they could just buy more gas. Like seriously, that lady is out of her mind insane. How on earth can that even be justified? Like seriously, you stole from people you don't even know. You took gas right out of their tank, and then you tried to justify it like you're the Joker from Batman. Like, I'm sorry, that doesn't work in this situation. Now, according to the original poster, as well as some of the commenters, apparently this entitled Karen is probably going to be faced with some kind of misdemeanor, especially when you consider some of the state laws in the state that the original poster's from, which honestly is all completely deserved. Like, what she did is so unacceptable, and I just can't justify that under any normal circumstances. In my opinion, it is never right to steal from other people, and if someone does do something like this, then they absolutely should have to pay for their crimes, whether that's paying the money back for the gas that she stole, or even doing like jail time, because this is so inappropriate. Not to mention the lost wages that some of these people probably ran into. And the original poster had a full tank of gas. I think I would have lost my mind if that happened to me. Like, I don't know about you, but gas prices are already expensive enough. So thankfully, something's being done about this weird entitled Karen. And hopefully this never happens to the original poster or their neighbors ever again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not wanting to take my friend to work anymore after I quit the job that we both used to work at? Here's what happened. So I've been driving my friend to work every Monday through Friday since about July of this year, and I don't want to do it anymore. We both got hired on at a job at the same time, and we hit it off right away. She even said that she expected us to become best friends very quickly, and you know what? We did. When we talked more, I discovered she didn't have a car and would ask friends and families for rides or just pay for lifts to get to work. I knew it cost her a lot of money on top of the bills that she already had, so I offered to drive her instead. She lives on the way to the job from my house, so it just made sense for me to make a small detour and pick her up in the mornings. She agreed to give me $20 each week for gas and snacks, which was way less than she was paying for a single ride through Lyft, and this was honestly no biggie. Well, that is until I quit. To be fair, I told her I understood my quitting would put her in a really bad situation, since she depended on me to get her to work, so I agreed to keep taking her, which would allow us to still hang out too. But here lately, I've been getting really poor sleep and not waking up on time at all. It's caused me to be late a bunch this last week. I actually slept through my alarm yesterday for the first time in a while. When I woke up and realized the time, I called her in a panic and apologized profusely. I told her I didn't know what happened. I just said that I somehow didn't wake up on time and I could rush over and grab her if she didn't already have other means of getting to work. She then became very short with me, said to me that it's fine quite a few times in our conversation, all before ending the call. Now, I totally understand being upset in that moment. You expect your ride to be there and it didn't show. I get it. But she hasn't spoken to me since Friday morning when it happened, and she's not responding to anything that I've sent her on TikTok like she usually does. Now, I'm wondering how she can be this mad at me when I have basically been doing her a favor. Oh, and remember the $20 a week she was supposed to give me? Well, it's only happened a handful of times, and the last time was maybe since July of this year. It's now the first few days of November, and at this point, she should have given me about $300 for all the weeks that I have driven her. But you know what? I actually just checked my transaction with her on Cash App, and I found that she's only sent me about $120. That leaves about $180 that I'm still owed, and she's probably going to tag another another $20 on this week. I also don't appreciate how a lot of the time she gets in the car and is constantly on her phone with someone else. Sometimes she doesn't even speak to me until I get her to her job or even back to her house, and it's usually only long enough to say goodbye. So not only am I giving you heavily discounted rides, if not free rides altogether, but I'm also your impromptu chauffeur, which is just great. So much for hanging out, right? So as you can see, this is clearly not working. Before we go any further, the original poster actually has an update to the story. Here's what they had to say. Well, after reading some of the comments, I realize I've been giving her way more than I should have, and she is not very grateful for it. But most importantly, she isn't really my friend in the slightest, which is something that I think I slowly figured out. Here's how the conversation went this morning. I said to her, "Hey, I wanted to let you know I can't take you to work anymore. It's hurting me financially, and my sleep quality and my energy are really poor right now. I'm exhausted, and it's not fair for you to have to be late because you're waiting on me. I hope maybe one of the people that works there that lives near you is willing to be able to take you, because honestly, I just can't take it anymore." She responded by saying, "Well, I kind of figured it was going to happen." And that was the end of the conversation. She didn't say something like, "Thanks for the help while you could, I really appreciate it," or something like, "Oh, it's okay, I'll figure something out." Nope, nothing like that. I just got that lame response instead. I still hope she figures it out, but she is absolutely not invited for Friendsgiving anymore, that's for sure. And I'm not even going to be fishing for a thank you or dignify any kind of response from that, because honestly, she really was using me, and thankfully I figured that out sooner than later. It is really nice to see that the original poster figured this out sooner than later. Like, first of all, you are not the jerk in this situation. Your friend, or should I say former friend, was absolutely using you left and right just to try and get some kind of ride out of you. And you know what? While you work there, I can see this absolutely working. Like, for me personally, I would be willing to give a coworker a ride to work if they worked there with me and we were good friends. And it sounds like the two of you were friends at one point. But once you quit your job is honestly right when you should have said, "Hey, I'm not going to be able to give you any rides anymore." Because, you know, I kind of quit my job after all. The fact that you agreed to still give her a ride to work, even though you didn't work this place any longer, was a big mistake and a massive waste of your time. That's no longer you trying to be a good person. This is you getting walked all over and just being a people pleaser, which in my opinion is a massive negative quality. Like, that is not a positive thing in your life. And it's also really unfortunate that she owes you so much money. Like, she definitely owes you about $180, and it is so unacceptable that she didn't pay you on time or at all in some cases. So no, you are definitely not the jerk here. Your former friend was absolutely using you, and you did not deserve to get treated in the way that you did. Would I be the jerk for reporting a gym attendant after they did nothing about a guy kicking me off a machine? Here's what happened. So to start things out, at 9 in the morning this morning, I went to my local gym. I did 5 minutes on the elliptical machine and then went to switch to a rowing machine. There were 2 machines and both were vacant when I walked up, and I decided to choose the one closest to me. I adjusted the seat, the weight, I sat down and did a light stretch before starting the first set. I then was accosted by a middle-aged man who waved me down about 30 feet away, saying to me, "Hey, get off of there, that's my machine. I'm using that, get off right now." Having sat down at the machine with no one near it, and with no one's belongings on it or near it, I explained that I'd gathered that it was not taken or reserved. Well, he continued to complain that he had still been using it despite walking away, and angrily demanded I switch to the other vacant machine not even 5 feet away. Now, neither machine had electricity, so it's not like he was recording his stats or anything like that. I explained that having already sat down and adjusted the machine, I would be done with my set shortly, and that he should feel free to use the vacant machine himself. He then yells a bit more and calls over the attendant, and then gives off a belligerent rendition of how he was just walking around the gym in between sets, and somehow I jumped in. I reiterated that the machine had been vacant when I approached it and sat down. Well, the attendant didn't clarify any of the rules or etiquette, but seemed to side with the man accosting me, saying only the words, "Oh, I see what you're saying," in an aside to the man, and leaving it at that. Aware that this situation is continuing to cause a scene, and it would appear that I'm not going to be helped by the attendant, and being outnumbered and pressured to move, I stood up, shook the man by the hand, and switched machines, wishing him a good day. The attendant returned to his station without any further involvement, and I returned to focusing on my workout. The other guy also returns to his, but loudly starts muttering to himself in the vicinity. He says that I should be having some kind of respect because he was born in America, as well as other derogatory derogatory remarks, calling me a jerk amongst other things. I finished my set, took the name of the attendant on the way out, and then I just left. Now, I don't blame the establishment for the patron's racist sentiment, but I also don't feel like I was going to get help from the same guy that did absolutely nothing to stop the absolutely unnecessary confrontation. So honestly, would I be the jerk if I wrote a formal complaint after the gym attendant did absolutely nothing about this guy kicking me off of his machine? No, you absolutely would not be the jerk in this situation. That gym attendant did nothing to assist you. They just saw this one guy screaming and making a fuss about you taking a spot that he clearly abandoned. He very obviously took this guy's side and did absolutely nothing to mitigate the situation. Like, that is seriously such an awful way to conduct business, and in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I 100% would be reporting that gym attendant for not doing their job or at least playing favorites. Also, on that note, I really hope you report that other guy for making those awful remarks about you. For reference, the original poster is 30 years old and they are an immigrant. So the fact that this guy would run up and be like, oh, you gotta respect me because I live in America, as well as some of the other derogatory remarks that this guy made towards this guy, is really awful and absolutely should be reported. I don't know about you, but that is not someone I would want at my gym if I'm going there to try and get a workout. So no, you would not be the jerk in this situation. The guy making those remarks and the gym attendant both really suck, and in my opinion, they both should be reported for the way that they treated you. Am I the jerk for not wanting to lend my friend money, since it really seems like she only reaches out to me in the first place when she's in desperate need of some fast cash? And right now, with all things considered, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So lately, it has become a common occurrence that this one not super close friend of mine has been asking to borrow money from me. She does pay me back, but I still have to remind her to pay me back in the first place if she doesn't just give it to me right away. I think sometimes she hopes that I'll just forget. Last time she asked for about $30 because her account went negative, and this time she is asking me to send her $5 right now. I still have no clue what the reason is because I've not responded yet. I get that I'm not losing money because she is paying me back, but I just can't help but feel gross about the whole situation. One huge reason is because she doesn't text me at all unless she wants to ask me about money. We hang out very occasionally, and she'll text me stuff related to that on the day that we hung out, but nothing ever after that. Now, here's a really tricky part. She also has a boyfriend who makes much more money than I do. He makes more per hour and works more hours, so I know for a fact he has much more money than me. And I've straight up asked her why she doesn't ask him for the money, and she says that she doesn't want to be lectured by him about using her money more wisely. But I personally think that's exactly the kind of lecture that she needs. What also makes me very uneasy is when I clearly am hesitant these other times to give her money, she'll just keep asking and giving excuses until I give in to her. And when I do, she'll say in caps, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much, I'll pay you back." And it honestly makes me want to throw up. It makes me feel like she's saying, "Oh, I only like you because you gave me money." Now, lastly, I know she has other friends, so I'm not sure why she only asks me for money. It's also giving me the idea that she thinks that I'm a pushover. I don't want to start problems with her, but I really don't want her to get the idea that I'm some kind of pushover, while also being her bank that she can just keep lending her money from because she can't manage hers properly. I am a nice person, but only to the extent of not being a pushover. She has cared about me in other ways in my life and has done nice gestures, but she has also definitely crossed boundaries of mine that I've clearly went over, which makes her seem incredibly ignorant. So honestly, am I the jerk here for not wanting to lend money to my friend anymore? What should I do? I do not think you're the jerk at all. Here's the thing, you can still be friends with this person, but you saying, "Hey, I can't give you money anymore," should not dissolve this friendship at all if it really was a good friendship in the first place. The way you've described her really does seem like she's only going to you for money. She clearly sees you as some kind of get out of jail free card, whether it's just for some quick cash or stuff like that. She really does go to you to try and get money so that she can save her skin. And hey, I get it, we all are in a pinch sometimes, but the fact that she keeps doing this and doesn't have the decency of paying you back on time, that in my opinion is really inappropriate, and that is a massive red flag. Also, this lady has a boyfriend. Why on earth is she going to you asking for money when she should be going to her boyfriend and trying to get that figured out? And you know what? I completely agree with the original poster here. It really does seem like she needs some kind of lecture or some kind of intervention to say, "Hey, you need to be better with your money." Now, here's the thing. If this happened once or twice, it really would not be that big of a deal. I mean, friends borrow money all the time, but it's the fact that she does this constantly consistently and it's starting to become a problem for you, that's where I think she really crossed the line, and this absolutely needs to be corrected. So no, I don't think you would be the jerk for telling her, hey, I can't give you any more money. I think it's completely reasonable for you to put your foot down in this situation and tell her straight up that you cannot give her any more money, because what you've described sounds really sketchy, and it really does seem like your friend is definitely using you. I have a huge crush on my boss after going through a really bad breakup of almost 6 years, and now I'm considering asking him out, or at least try to pursue some kind of relationship. And I'm now at a loss, as I seriously don't know if this is a good idea or if this is going to cause me problems. Here's what happened. So to start things out, I went through a traumatic breakup in July, and this was a 6-year relationship that fell apart. We lived together and it was extremely unexpected. I am only just really in the last month or 6 weeks starting to feel okay by myself. My life has changed a lot since then, and I've put a lot of work in to make new friends, do more, and work on myself, as well as work overtime at my job. The working overtime has led to a huge crush developing on my boss. For reference, I'm 23 years old and my boss is 28 years old. He's my line manager, so not technically a real manager, but still my manager. He's not my type at all. He's really the complete opposite of my type, but I feel so drawn to him. He's quiet, thoughtful, and dresses really well, and he has really good morals. The crush has really grown legs and ran away from me, and I have no idea whether there's a chance of it developing any further, but I'm honestly enjoying it so much. I'm really loving having someone else from my mind to default to when I'm bored instead of my ex. It's helping me to go about my life with a new energy, as well as get excited about things more, because I'll tell him and show him things that I've done. Also, before anyone would ask the question, yes, I do have daddy issues. But really, I just wondered whether this is gonna be okay or not. I know no one is a mind reader, but he has shown some signs of interest. Whether that's on a friendship level or more, I can't really tell. I did see him on a dating app, so I know he's single. I don't know if I'm ready to start any type of relationship anytime soon, but I think if this did pan out, it would be a very slow burn. So maybe it would be easier to continue healing while it happens if it goes that way. How do I even go about letting him know I'm interested without making work awkward if he isn't? Should I even let him know in the first place? Should I try to stop crushing on him? I just really don't know. All my friends think it's very funny because it's definitely the type of behavior I would engage in. I'm a hopeless romantic, and when I fall hard for someone, I fall incredibly hard. It all feels fine right now, but I'm just scared. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, let me just say it first and foremost, I think this is an awful idea. In my opinion, I think it's a terrible idea to date anybody in the office or space that you work in. Like sure, it can work out, and sometimes it does. But in my own personal life, I've seen things go south really quickly in ways that you would not expect. Like the fact that he's your manager and that you already went through a breakup and you're already kind of lonely and you're dealing with that whole situation, that in my opinion is a massive red flag for yourself that you seriously need to pump the brakes. Like I really would be cautious about pursuing this any further than you already have. Like maybe keep things casual and have some kind of like friendship with this guy, but pursuing your manager at work all because you have a crush on him, in my opinion, is an awful idea, and I just don't endorse that in the slightest. Because what if that relationship falls apart? What if he really rejects you in a serious way, and now you're stuck answering to this guy every single day of your life at this job? Like think about it for a second. You have the potential of ruining your place of employment all because you have a crush on your manager. Like I really think you need to put yourself in a better perspective and realize that you just got out of a long-term relationship and you had a bad breakup. So maybe that's why you're feeling drawn to people that are unlike your ex. And this situation definitely sounds like a rebound situation in my opinion. So yes, I think this is an awful idea and you're only going to get yourself in trouble or at least get yourself hurt. And unless you want to try and make your workspace a miserable place to work, in my opinion, I think it would be wiser to look elsewhere if you really want to pursue a different relationship. My entitled friends and roommates refuse to pay rent or the utilities, leaving me solely responsible to pay for everything just to make sure that we don't end up homeless. And I'm honestly blown away by their entitlement. Here's what happened. So you know those friends you have in high school that are absolute bros, your brothers from other mothers, your ride or die homies? Well, I had 3, and this is a cautionary tale to any young or new adults who might run into this situation. After high school, I moved to a larger city to be near my high school girlfriend. I was there for a couple of years, renting rooms in larger houses, living more or less by myself, and learning how to be an adult. Living by myself got lonely. only, and since my girlfriend lived with her mom, living with her wasn't an option. So, over the years, my guy friends from high school would one by one fall on hard times or otherwise have a reason to leave our garbage town that we grew up in. Eventually, though, I was living with my 3 best friends. Every adult in my life warned me against it, but these guys were my favorite people in the world. They would not screw me over. Now, to prevent this story from being a 10-page essay, we'll skip past 2 years of living in a tiny 2-bedroom apartment. About a year before COVID started, my girlfriend's neighbor was moving out of his house. We had become friends and often dog sat for him. He didn't want to give up his house in the city, so he was looking to rent it out. And wouldn't you know it, my roommates and I were looking for a place to rent. He offered us a spot at his 3-bedroom house for an insanely low price, $1,750, in a market where a house like this in a worse neighborhood goes for about $1,700. Obviously, we quickly agreed. 2 roommates split the master bedroom for $350 each, and the last roommate and I each had a smaller bedroom for about $525 apiece. Things started out great, but then COVID hit us like a truck. My roommates and I love to play video games, we love to smoke and watch dumb TV shows, so that's honestly what we did. But I had a girlfriend and would spend a lot of time at her house next door, where we'd do chores, take care of her kid brother, and do some school and work. My roommates, on the other hand, all they did was smoke and game and then smoke some more. Eventually, my state announced a moratorium on evictions and finalized our downfall. In the previous years, my roommates each had their own issues holding down a job, as well as paying for utilities and rent. Oftentimes, I was, despite being the youngest, the one that ended up covering missing rent and utilities. And I did this mostly because I enjoy having electricity and also not being homeless. Well, this moratorium set us into a tailspin, because now my roommates had no incentive to keep jobs. At any given time during this whole moratorium, at least one of them would be unemployed. If that one found a job, it was very short order until another one was jobless as well. Now, as previously mentioned, our landlord was my friend, and we were paying no more and no less than his house payments, and he had done us a massive favor in charging us so little. Eventually, rent came up, and since I was the one in charge of paying, I would be the one to talk to my roommates about paying their portion of rent. After the first month, they decided that it was unfair of me to ask so much of them, and simply claimed that he couldn't evict us if they didn't pay rent. I would plead and pester, and eventually, I convinced them to scrape together what little money they had that normally would go towards other garbage. Rent was getting later and later. I was stupid, I was young, and I figured, well, as long as they had a plan for rent, I wouldn't care too much if it was late. Well, rent was never on time, and my poor friend and landlord was extremely financially stressed, but I assured him that it wouldn't be a problem. Eventually, each month was getting more and more dire. They'd have to sell things, I'd have to give them things to sell, they'd stop paying for utilities to pay for the rent. I didn't really care if the internet bill didn't get paid. I had Wi-Fi next door. The internet was shut off for them with relative frequency, but they'd always scrape something together to get it going again so they could game and stream. Bills started piling up to the point where I made a very intricate spreadsheet that kept track of bills paid by whoever did it and showed plainly how much someone was or wasn't contributing towards the household. And this was the thing that finally opened my eyes. I did the math over a couple of months, and I was out thousands of dollars keeping us afloat. In fact, I only recently, about 3 years later, managed to pay off the utilities debt that they ditched me with. Eventually, things came to a head in an explosion that deserves its own post. I will never have roommates again, and I learned an important lesson. Just because some people are your friends, it doesn't mean that their work ethic is anything like yours. And I will never live with anybody who doesn't match my same sense of responsibility. Wow, that seriously must have been a nightmare. I'm honestly blown away that your best friends would act that way, but unfortunately, this is something that really does happen. Sure, these are high school friends that you're really good friends with. You would do anything for them and vice versa. They seriously have your back in just about all facets of life, but here they are blowing their chance at proving their worth. Like seriously, your roommates sound like absolute garbage people. They clearly took advantage of your kindness and said to themselves, oh, it's okay, we're not gonna get evicted because our friend here is just gonna pay for it. And with this moratorium eviction notice, basically preventing them from getting evicted in the first place, that certainly didn't help any of your problems moving forward. And unfortunately, in times like this, it really does show exactly who really is a responsible adult and who's just there to have a good time and party. Because I really think you have it right. I would rather be around somebody who's willing to be a responsible adult instead instead of someone who just wants to stay at home and smoke and play video games. Like, they're not contributing anything to society, and more importantly, they're not paying for any of the bills or the rent that's owed. I'm honestly really surprised though, by the way, that the original poster didn't try to, like, I don't know, take their friends to court or anything like that. Like, you had a very clear spreadsheet of what they did and didn't pay. You had it all clearly written out, and I'm pretty sure you could have explained exactly what was going on in that house to a judge if you were given the chance. But honestly, with all things considered, I understand why you didn't do that. You were basically right out of high school. These were friends that you never thought would betray your trust, and you thought these people had your back, so I completely understand where you're coming from. But I think if anything, you learned a very valuable lesson, proving that just because someone's a really good friend doesn't mean that this is someone you would ever want to live with. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I'm worried that my fiance is cheating on me with my best friend, and I'm now at a loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my fiance and I have been together for 4 years. During this time, we did not have any serious problems in our relationship. Yes, we did sometimes have some fights, as it does happen with all couples, but it was never too long or too serious or too often. Over the years, my fiance has also made friends with my best friend, with whom I have been friends with since elementary school. This is a man with whom I went through fire and water with. As a teenager, I saved his life twice. The first time when he started drowning in a village river, and the second time when he took his father's car without asking and drove into a road sign, almost breaking his neck. I thought he was the brother I never had. I had no secrets from him. He probably knew even more about me than my father, and I always thought I knew him better than his parents too. We have never had fights over girls. Even in the 5th grade, we swore that nothing and no one could ever destroy our friendship, and that's why I never ever worried about my friend hanging out with my girlfriend a lot without me. I was convinced that there was just friendship between them. I turned a blind eye to the fact that my friend's things began to appear in our house. One time I found his lighter on the table, and another time I found his smartwatch. I was a little surprised that he was in our house without saying it to me, but like the last fool, I didn't see anything wrong with that. I didn't see that something was wrong, even though I began to notice about a year and a half ago. My girlfriend began to linger at work, decided to go on vacation without me, and I noticed that she was not behaving as usual. After work, she immediately ran to the shower and did not hug me as usual. All this time, I suspected she was having an affair, but I had no proof. My girlfriend was moving away from me more and more, becoming cold and withdrawn, and later I found out that she constantly communicates online with my friend, talks to him on the phone, and she leaves home to walk with him. My friend's attitude towards me has also changed. He started dropping rude jokes in my direction, stopped talking to me about his work and life. He mocked me in front of my girlfriend, and then said that he was just joking. The most annoying thing is that my girlfriend laughed at these jokes of his. He could flirt a little with my girlfriend right in front of me, and if I was perplexed, he replied that he was just complimenting her, and my girlfriend said that I was just too jealous and clingy. And yesterday, my friend and I started mock fights in front of my girlfriend. I, as usual in these mock fights, controlled my strength, but he just broke my nose. After that, he apologized for a long time and claimed that it was an accident. But I was already suspicious. I think my best friend and my girlfriend are having an affair, but I do not know how to bring it to light. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, so first off, I can see where you're coming from, where you might be a little bit paranoid about your friend and your girlfriend. Like, what you've described really does seem like it's some kind of like sketchy situation, and I can understand why you would connect the dots in the way that you have. But with all of that in mind, I think it would be an awful idea to jump to some kind of conclusion, all without any kind of like irrefutable evidence. Like, I think it's a really bad idea to approach either of them and be like, hey, listen, I know you're either cheating on me or you're helping my partner cheat on me, or even make some kind of like definitive statement, all without some kind of like hard proof. I think that would be an awful idea, and it would do way more damage than good. Because what if they are just friends? Like, seriously, what if they're just good friends and they just so happen to be going through like private things individually, and it just so happens to coincide with both of them like being distant from you? I don't think that's totally outside the realm of possibility, and I don't think it would be impossible to say that you might be overreaching in this situation, especially because you don't have any like hard evidence. So in my opinion, I would see if I can find something to prove your suspicions right, because without that, honestly, you can't draw some kind of conclusion that isn't there. And I really believe that approaching either of them and accusing them of messing with your relationship is only going to do more harm than good in the long run. Would I be the jerk if I didn't invite my brother to my college graduation after he's treated me like garbage for several years? Here's what happened. So as the title states, I don't want to invite my brother to my college graduation. When we were teenagers, we were very close. We would take walks together just to have time to talk to one another. When I was a senior in high school, he told me that he planned on stopping his classes and attending again next year. I told him that I don't think that's a good idea, since statistically, people who take a year off from classes never go back, and he'll still have to pay tuition, so he may as well try. He got very quiet and didn't say anything further. Well, about a month later, I found out I got accepted into my first choice of university. My brother was the first person I told, and I still remember his exact response. He said to me, "I'll be here to support you when you drop out." And when he said that to me, I was heartbroken. What was supposed to be an exciting moment for me was immediately met with him basically telling me that I'm gonna fail. Well, fast forward a few years to early 2022, and my mother and I had a huge fight after I found out she put my name on a credit card as a kid and never paid off the debt. Well, my brother ran to her aid and called me a lying, manipulative, narcissistic jerk. And my mother and I had already resolved the issue before he called me that. Last week, I told my mother that I did not want to invite my brother to my graduation. She told me that he would be heartbroken if I didn't invite him, and said that he often speaks highly of me and says how proud he is of me. Well, he never said any of this to me, so I told her the things that he did say, and she said that it was ultimately my choice, but that it would probably end our relationship altogether. Our relationship is already hanging by a thread. We only talk on birthdays and Christmas, and anytime I think of him, I only see a person who is waiting for and expecting me to fail. Since my brother lives with our mother, I can't just not tell him when graduation is. I would have to specifically tell him that you are not invited. So honestly, would I be the jerk for not inviting my brother to graduation? This is a really tricky one, because I can see both sides of this very clearly. For starters, your brother is an absolute jerk. He's treated you like garbage, and he's basically said, "Oh, you're gonna fail at college." But here you are, literally proving him wrong on the brink of graduating from university, which is definitely more than what your brother can say. And yes, he has said some awful things to you in the past, and he's done some stuff that really is unacceptable. But with all of that in mind, in my opinion, I think it would be way worse to not invite him to your college graduation than to straight up say to him that he cannot come along. And this is not for the reasons that you might be thinking. While this is a special day for you, and this is a massive accomplishment in your life, I think this can also be a chance to rub it in his face that yes, you did succeed, and no, you did not fail. Like, this would be the best revenge you could possibly give him by basically showing him up and proving him wrong in a very real and tangible way. Like, why would you want to give up that opportunity to show to him once and for all that yes, you could do it? Because here's the thing, by not inviting him, you're just gonna give him more reasons to hate you, and he would probably hold this over your head forever. But on the other side of that, by inviting him and allowing him to come along, you are at least able to say, if anybody complains, that yes, you did invite your brother to come along to your graduation. This will literally allow you to completely dispel anything anyone could possibly say about you, especially if your brother tries to run his mouth later on about you. You can literally turn around and be like, well, I tried to invite him to graduation, but he clearly doesn't want to show support to me and be a good brother. Like, this is nothing but a win for you, in my opinion. If he does show up, you've got perfect evidence you can rub in his face, but if he doesn't show up, he's gonna seem like an absolute jerk. You can literally use that as a shield if he tries to mouth off against you in any kind of way. But you know what? At the end of the day, this is your decision and it's your graduation. But I really think there are some fantastic advantages by inviting your brother to your graduation. Am I the jerk for going over my professor's head? All because I feel I deserved a better grade than my professor gave me. Here's what happened. Recently, I had to do a literary analysis essay. Admittedly, I put it off until the night before and wrote it while pulling an all-nighter to study for some other things as well. Regardless, as I've always been generally good at literary analysis, I feel that I did well. I got it back at the beginning of the week, and surprisingly, I was given a 70%. The reasoning given was that although the paper itself was good, I had committed the following cardinal sins. I did not include a title, I did not include page numbers or use present tense, and I didn't use a works cited page. I find the last point to be especially stupid, given I did only reference one text and was only supposed to reference one text, which is the book itself. I did the text citation within the essay itself and didn't feel the need to include a citations page. Using past tense as well, it seems immaterial. The first two, fair enough, but I didn't think think that those marred the quality of the paper immensely. Those lapses were a product of my sleep-deprived brain. I tried talking to the professor, saying that I didn't deserve 30% off, but she said that she just followed the rubric. But I found this unfair, as she had not even made her rubric public to the students. So I went to the department head and I showed him my paper. He agreed with me that it deserved better than a 70% and mandated that it be regraded with less severe amount of points docked for the lapses. I ended up with a 92%, but the professor confronted me and said she didn't appreciate me playing politics to get a better grade than I deserved. I don't think that's fair, because I do think that I deserved a higher grade than I received, and clearly the department head agreed as well. So am I the jerk for going over my professor's head? Because at this point, I'm not sure and I seriously don't know what to do. I'm gonna say absolutely yes, you are the jerk in this situation. In my opinion, I think you got off incredibly lucky, and I think a 70% was only because you did a good job in the paper itself. I've had professors where if I missed those 4 things that you listed, they would just straight up give me a 0, as all of those sections that you just completely didn't include are extremely vital for a paper. And the fact that you complained to the department head, screaming to them that, oh man, I deserve better than a 70%, really makes you look like an entitled brat, and honestly does not serve you well in this school. Like, are you really trying to say that a works cited page is not important for an assignment? Like, are you kidding me right now? Do you want to get accused of plagiarism? And I honestly don't believe what the original poster's saying, where they are claiming that there's no rubric that students can have access to. Like, I think that's a bunch of BS in my opinion, because professors at the beginning of the semester, they give you a syllabus of everything that's expected. And that syllabus is like the Bible. Whatever's written on there absolutely is what the professor's gonna do. So I seriously think the original poster's lying here, where they're trying to claim, oh, we don't have access to the rubric. That's not true, and I don't believe you for a second. Also, you waited until the last second to do the assignment in the first place. Like, at that point, whatever poor grade you receive is literally your own fault. You didn't properly plan this out, and you put it off all for the sake of working on other things. Like, that's nobody's fault except for your own. And by the way, the content in the essay itself is literally just as important as the things that you didn't include. You need page numbers, you need a title, you absolutely need a works cited page. Like, come on. Any legitimate student would know that. So yes, with all things considered, I do think you're the jerk here. And I personally have to agree with your professor. It really did seem like you were trying to play politics just to try and get a better grade. My partner is angry with me because I didn't wake them up enough at 6 o'clock this morning for an exam that they needed to take. And now they're frustrated with me, saying that I didn't do enough to make sure that they woke up on time. And I'm now so frustrated, and I don't know if I did anything wrong, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So we are both in our mid-20s. They're studying further while working and had an exam that started at 8 o'clock in the morning. Last night, they asked me to wake them up at 6 o'clock, so I promptly set my alarm for 6 o'clock. It is usually set at 6:15, as that's when I wake up for work. Well, at 5 o'clock in the morning, our cat was scratching at the bedroom door to be let out, so we both woke up for a few seconds. By the time I woke up and got back to bed, they had already fallen back to sleep. Well, at 6 o'clock this morning, the alarm went off as normal, and I shook them awake. Their eyes opened and they shifted in bed. I thought that they were awake, and as such, I went back to sleep for a few minutes. At around 6:25, I woke up naturally and checked my phone to see the time. Realizing that they were late, I exclaimed, "Wake up, it's 6:30. They promptly woke up in a flash and started getting ready, as I made some coffee and some breakfast for them. When they were done getting ready, we had an argument where they were super angry at the fact that I didn't wake them up on time. I responded in anger, stating that I woke them up at 6 o'clock, but they fell back asleep. They responded by saying, "That wasn't waking someone up," and that they weren't up and neither was I. Furthermore, their argument is also that they don't remember being woken up at 6 o'clock, only at 5 o'clock when there was a noise. They also angrily mentioned that if they missed the exam, who's gonna take off another day of work to write the exam, as they already took weeks off of work for studying. I can understand their anger that they entrusted me to wake them up at 6 o'clock and such, and being woken up nearly half an hour later would be infuriating. But I believe they have no grounds to be angry, as they did not wake up when they needed to. Furthermore, they didn't take any responsibility to set their own alarms. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? You are not the jerk in this situation. You're both in your mid-20s and your partner can't wake themselves up for an exam? Like, seriously, how is this your fault? You did what they asked you to do. You literally shook them awake and said, hey, you've got to get up, you've got to go for your exam. You You did your job by stirring them awake. And honestly, the fact that they fell asleep completely falls on their shoulders. Like, you are not this person's mom or dad. They are literally responsible for their own obligations, and I think it's completely inappropriate for you to get roped into their garbage. So no, once and for all, you are not the jerk. I don't think you did anything wrong here, and the fact that they're trying to blame you on them not waking up on time is a clear and present sign of their immaturity, and that is absolutely inappropriate, and you definitely do not deserve to be treated that way. My entitled college professor creates an environment in the classroom where it's nearly impossible for anybody to get a good grade, and after dealing with this on the brink of getting my degree, as well as being so frustrated with what was going on, I decided to fight back and stage a rebellion, discovering a fantastic loophole that would force this professor to change his rules. And I've never felt better about making such a big change in my life. Here's what happened. So to start things out, I was a non-traditional student, so I was a little bit older and a little more willing to question things. I was taking a 3000 level political science course, so it was designed for political science majors and was required for my political science degree. It was a fairly basic political science course, but the professor did some weird things. Specifically, there was a quiz every class over the assigned reading, and these quizzes made up a significant part of the grade. But here's the tricky part. He was clearly trying to do some sort of experiment that was trying to teach us about game theory or something like that. And this is how he did it. The correct answer for a quiz question was the answer that was given by the most students in the class. And this is whether it was based in fact or not. Whatever the most students said was the answer was the correct answer. For example, if the question was, what year was the Constitution ratified? Even though the factually correct answer would be 1789, if the majority of the class chose 1776, then 1776 was the right answer, and you got credit for the answer. If you chose 1789, you were wrong and didn't get the credit. This forced you to make a decision. You could either try to be factually accurate or try to figure out what the crowd was going to do and go with that, but neither guaranteed that you would get a correct answer. And let's be honest, if you knew the right answer, trying to figure out what the majority of people would do is a losing proposition. You knew the answer, so trying to figure out how the majority of people could get a question wrong forced you to think opposite to what got you to the correct answer in the first place. Now, the majority of the time, most of the students would actually choose the factually correct answer, but if it was a common misconception or the question was poorly worded, then that could lead to a situation where the crowd was wrong. But here's what drove me absolutely nuts. I was not willing to make my grade dependent on whatever the other students thought might be the correct answer. My grade became dependent on conforming to what the crowd said was true. I had no real control over my grade since the wisdom of the crowd could be anything. And you know what? A class of 30 students was probably not a large enough crowd to give you a good example of the wisdom of the crowds. So basically, learning the material was not the point. Instead, conforming to the crowd was what got you a good grade. And it was right about here, after so much frustration, that I decided to maliciously comply and begin to stage a rebellion. I figured out that if we all agreed to choose the same answer for every question, then we could all guarantee ourselves a perfect score on the quiz. In reality, I only needed a plurality of people to go along with my plan. As long as I could muster enough votes for an answer, then we could control our destiny. It didn't matter if A was the correct answer or not. If we control the votes, we control our grades. And anyone who didn't go with us, they were going to fail regardless of if their answer was actually correct or not. I met everyone at the door to the classroom, and I explained the plan. I said to them, for every question, we are going to choose the first option. If it's multiple choice, choose option A. If it's true or false, we are choosing true. If we all agree to this, then we can all get a perfect score. If you decide to go against us, your answer will be wrong. So fast forward, and the first class comes around and we did this. But the professor figured out after a few questions that we were gaming the system. So he had us redo the quiz and graded us on the factually correct answers. After the second class that we did this, the professor changed the rules. There were two answers that would get you full points, the factually correct answer, and whatever answer the majority agreed upon. In the end, I was okay with this arrangement. I could study and give the correct answer without being penalized for not conforming to the crowd think. Or if I made the same mistake as the majority of the people, then I still got credit for it, and it was a good discussion point for the class. And you know what? Yes, I absolutely got an A in that class. I'm not sure if the professor ever figured out who organized the rebellion, but I did end up working with him in graduate school, and we got along just fine. I always wondered though, did he do this to teach us about the power of grassroots organizing, it might not have been his intention, but he turned me into a leader even though I never wanted to be one. I organized a campaign to overthrow bad leadership, and we created a new regime where truth and discourse were both valued, and we learned that a plurality of voters can determine the path forward, even if they are not the majority. That is an awesome way to not only game the system, but also to get this stupid professor to change the rules. I can't imagine being in a class like that and having to put up with this level of stupidity. Like seriously, if you ask me, I want my grades to be graded on my abilities and not just on what the crowd thinks in the class. Because then you're gonna get scenarios like this. One person's gonna rise up, they're gonna say, hey, we're picking this answer, and if you don't go with us, you're gonna fail. And you're basically just being strong-armed into going with that answer, or else you're gonna get a bad grade. Like, I really get the point about what he's trying to say here, and I get that this goes on in society pretty much like all over the place, but for this to be reflected in an academic setting is honestly a little bit jarring. I would be not only incredibly frustrated that this was going on, but I would also do exactly what this original poster did. I would stage a rebellion right then and there and guarantee that either something's going to change or I was absolutely going to get a good grade. So good for the original poster for taking their fate into their own hands, because the way this professor set up this class was honestly really stupid. And I guarantee that if you did nothing about this situation, there's a high likelihood that you, as well as your classmates, would have all suffered with horrible grades. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled Karen gets shut down at a funeral after she makes the dumb decision to try and push me and my aunt around. And I've never felt better about watching someone get taken down. Here's what happened. So my mom passed away in 2011, right around the time that my paternal aunt was left by her husband after beating cancer for a third time. Now, my aunt is very physically changed from all the chemo and radiation. She had gained a lot of weight, lost most of her hair, and had aged a bit faster due to a lack of hormones from having every trace of womanhood cut from her body. I have extreme anxiety stemming from agoraphobia, so my aunt was my safe space for the duration of the whole event, which lasted for several days. This consisted of everyone being at my parents' summer house in Mexico, basically standing around, chatting, drinking, and eating everything in sight. This funeral had every family member, plus people who were aunts and uncles that I'd never even met in my life. Not being a drinker and not knowing a lot of the people walking around, my aunt and I sat down to smoke and catch up on our lives and whatnot. Well, suddenly, while we were mid-sentence in her cancer update, a Karen that I had never even set eyes on before in my life starts to groan loudly. She swats at the air like our cigarette smoke is even anywhere near her, and she's making this giant fuss. The entitled Karen says, "Oh, that's disgusting. How can you behave in such a disgusting manner at a funeral?" I say to her, my mom was a smoker, so she would approve. This Karen then looks at me and says, "She was your mother? She didn't teach her daughter how to be a lady, I see." This Karen then pointed at my aunt and said, "And you should know better. What do you have to say for yourself, smoking in front of this child?" Now, for reference, I'm 33 years old. I'm hardly a child. Well, my aunt takes off her sad cancer hat and strokes the small tuft of hair that she had left in the front, and then, booming her voice, but not quite yelling, just so everybody could hear, "What's it gonna do? Give me cancer?" Well, needless to say, the Karen looked uncomfortable after the hat came off, but still managed to look insulted and then walked away. After a millisecond of silence, I giggle snorted and laughed until my side hurt. Everyone else in the room just kind of smiled, though I think I heard a few snickers. I asked my aunt who that was, and my aunt said, "I don't know. Some weirdo that probably came for the free food." And needless to say, my aunt is amazing, and I'm so glad she put that Karen in her place. Yeah, you can tell that entitled Karen was like looking for a fight or some kind of argument. Like, I'm willing to say that the original poster and their aunt were most likely off to the side and completely out of everybody's way. They weren't bothering anybody, and they were probably far enough away where you would have to go to them to get some smoke in your face. So good for your aunt for putting this weird Karen in her place. She had no business bothering you and your aunt, and she honestly absolutely had it coming. I am very concerned about my boyfriend's behavior around his best friend, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So to start things off, I've been dating my boyfriend for about 1.5 years, and he has a huge close-knit friend group. One of those friends, let's call him Chris, that's not his real name, is around his age, and they have been very close friends for about 10 plus years. Chris is very much in touch with his feelings. He is a sensitive guy, I would say. He is known to be very loving loving and touching, and at social gatherings, it is not uncommon to see him be very close to his friends, massaging their shoulders, cuddling with girlfriends in the sofa. Everybody knows that this is just a part of who he is, and they all love him for it. And I don't really have a problem with this. I am very happy that my boyfriend has such great friends, and I really do value his relationship with Chris, as I think it's beautiful for them to have such a close friendship. But for the sake of the story, as an LGBT member myself, I would say that my radar is always 100% on point, and I was completely sure Chris was gay until my boyfriend mentioned a girl that Chris had previously dated. I still would have bet all my money that Chris might still be attracted to guys, but he is very, very religious, so I bet he wouldn't even really be honest about that, maybe even to himself. But a few things have been bothering me for a long time now, but I haven't been able to talk to my boyfriend about it since I know it's a sensitive topic, especially because they've always been such close friends for such a long time. So Chris lives in a city about 6 hours from us, and he's in our city literally every month, and my boyfriend also visits him several times a year. When my boyfriend is visiting Chris, they will meet up with their other friends there, including some girls that I don't trust for irrelevant reasons. I have made a point to my boyfriend that I would like to come visit with him the next time. That way I can meet all the other friends, so I can maybe feel comfortable with him spending time with them while I'm not there. Now, he has agreed, but has still gone down there 3 to 4 times without including me. So anyways, my issue really started when he visited Chris in the beginning of the summer. My boyfriend and I had talked previously about their friendship, and he told me, for example, that Chris usually itches or rubs the palm of his hands to calm him, and that he is very cuddly. At the moment, I thought that it's cute that they could do that, as most men would see it as gay, and I don't think it's fair for girls to be able to have such close friendships, but not granting men the same space. I have chronic back pain, and for the month leading up to his visit with Chris, I'd been complaining about how much my back hurt and that I really needed a massage. I pointed out several times that I would love to book a couples massage together with him, but then nothing happens. Well, he goes to visit Chris, and on the first day, he happily told me that he booked and paid for a massage for the both of them. I expressed that I was hurt by this, since he knew that I wanted to get one with him, and I felt like he prioritized his friend. Well, he understood and he apologized. Then my mind started running, thinking about my boyfriend being in the same bed as Chris, while Chris is rubbing his hands and arms, and I honestly felt disgusted. I then asked my boyfriend if they slept in the same bed or anything like that, and he said that they slept separately, so that calmed my thoughts down just a little bit. Well, my boyfriend comes home and everything is fine, and I kind of just brush off everything that I've been thinking about. But over the summer, I've noticed how much my boyfriend actually prioritizes Chris. It's always Chris this and Chris that. We could be in the middle of a conversation, but if Chris calls, he will immediately answer and talk to him for at least an hour. Now, my parents know the owners of a water and animal park, so we went on a getaway there over the weekend with my family. On one of the days, we were going to go swimming, but I had to help one of the workers clean up kangaroo poop first, and my boyfriend wanted to stay at the house. So, after 1 hour of breaking the worst sweat of my life in the sun, I go back to the house and I find my boyfriend talking on the phone, literally 20 meters from the house. I asked my mom about it, and she says he's been talking for 1 hour. He sees me, and he knows that I'm waiting on him to leave for the pool, but he stays on the phone for at least another 40 minutes. I figured that he was talking to his family and something had happened, because it really didn't make sense to me. When I spend time with my family, I am never on my phone. He will leave me alone with them for periods of time, and I spend that time actively connecting with them. Well, when he eventually comes back, it turns out he was talking to Chris. I am severely frustrated by this, so I bring it up immediately, and my boyfriend gets super angry with me, telling me that maybe he just needed that time to talk. Anytime that Chris is in town, my boyfriend will drop literally everything to go spend time with him. And let me remind you that they literally see each other every month. He spends about 1 to 2 weeks here regularly, and anytime my boyfriend visits Chris, he tells me that he's going to come home several days before he's actually coming, and that really annoys me. And I brought it up with my boyfriend yesterday, and he understood and apologized, saying that it wasn't intentional. Fast forward, and my boyfriend went to see his family overseas during the summer. He was supposed to go for 2 weeks, which was already hard for me, but then he surprises me by saying that it's actually going to be 3 weeks. This was super hard on me, and he knew it. We promised to have alone quality time for several days once he got home. Well, he comes home, and he tells me that he's booked a trip to Chris for 1 week, just 6 days after coming home from a 3-week trip. trip. I feel discarded, especially since I wasn't invited. But I figured maybe he just needed time with his friend, and I didn't want to be a bad girlfriend and try and stop him. Anyways, what really is bugging me is their intimacy. I'm not completely sure if they are as close now as when he was single, and I guess that's what's messing with my head. But every time I try to brush this off, something happens that makes my mind race again. For example, at a friend's birthday party about 2 months ago, Chris had come down to also join in. And as usual, Chris is walking around holding everybody, stroking their hands, giving them a massage, cuddling with some girls in the sofa. Meanwhile, my boyfriend and I are sitting outside smoking and talking with some other people. And lo and behold, Chris comes up and starts rubbing my boyfriend's shoulders. He kind of runs his hands down his arms in a very intimate way. Then he looks at me and immediately pulls back, as if he's been caught doing something wrong. I felt like this was really weird, because as I said, everybody knows that this is just how he is. So why would he act weird about it? My boyfriend is not really in a good place right now, and neither am I. We have both expressed to each other that we need each other a little bit more right now. On Tuesday, he came home and told me that his mom wants to spend time with him and his sister, who lives in the same city as Chris, and that they are going Friday through Sunday. This is no issue at all until he says that he's going to stay 1 to 2 days extra to spend time with Chris. Well, those extra 2 days are in fact 4 days. So instead of being away for 2 days, he's instead suddenly gone the entire week. Let me also mention that his sister doesn't have space for both him and his mom, so he will already have to sleep at Chris's place during this time, spending the whole afternoons with him. So I just felt like that was enough. Why can't he take this time with his family and go home together with his mom? Why does he always have to jump on every chance to go and be with him even more? And so currently, he is away with Chris right now. He texted me yesterday about what he was going to do for the day, mentioning that Chris said he's going to help me with my lower back, as he has some techniques and some tools. Now, I don't know why, but I'm starting to really hate Chris. I hate the thought of him stroking my boyfriend's arm, scratching his head, and now even a massage. If any of my boyfriend's friends gave him a massage, I wouldn't think twice. But now, I don't even want Chris's hands near my boyfriend. I have thought a lot about it, and I have come to the conclusion that this is about intimacy. I don't care if Chris is 100% straight, I still don't want him scratching my boyfriend's hand, because I see that as an intimate act, which should only be shared between the both of us. When I was single, I used to spoon with my girlfriends when they slept over, we would kiss on the mouth to say hi or goodbye, and we held hands when we watched movies. Everything was completely platonic. This was just how my friendships were. But now, being in a relationship, I would never spoon with my friends or hold their hands watching a movie, because even though it's platonic and it's harmless, it is still an act of intimacy. I only want to be intimate with my boyfriend. And if Chris really is bi, then that makes everything even worse. My boyfriend is completely oblivious to when people like him. I've caught on to several of his friends who are girls, which he completely didn't see, even though it was obvious. So I highly doubt he would ever think his guy friend of several years was interested in him. But yeah, I can't know that, so I'm just assuming he is straight. But regardless, my feelings still stand. So all in all, I can live with the fact that my boyfriend spends a lot of time with Chris, but I want to know exactly what their friendship is like, as well as how they act with each other. I want to know if he actually still rubs his hands and his arms. I want to know everything, but I don't know how to ask in a sensitive way. I know for a fact my boyfriend is going to be super defensive when I bring this up, but I have to know. This has been on my mind for such a long time that I simply need an answer. I don't want to feel the clump in my stomach every time they spend time together. So truly, how can I bring this up to him in a good way? How can I explain my feelings and let this all out? What should I do? First of all, I think it's a very good idea that you're catching on to what's going on. I don't think that your boyfriend is like getting with Chris or anything like that, but it's very clear that Chris is being a little too touchy-feely with your boyfriend. And the fact that your boyfriend isn't saying something, or at least being like, hey, let's not do that anymore, or something along those lines, in my opinion, is not okay. Because you know what? I agree with you. Holding hands, rubbing each other's arms, sitting close with someone, that is absolutely reserved for your significant other, especially if you're in a relationship. Like, I am quite serious about that, and I'm right there with you. But also, and I think more importantly, your boyfriend is prioritizing his friend Chris over you. Plain and simple. He is going to his friend much more than you. And that's probably why all these thoughts are popping up in your head. I mean, there might be a situation where Chris is legitimately just being a really close friend, and it is nothing more. But it's the fact that your boyfriend is constantly calling Chris and going to Chris all the time. I mean, that in my opinion really looks sketchy. So your your feelings and your anxieties around this situation are completely justified. So if I was in your shoes, I would be talking to him pretty openly about how you feel about Chris. Like the way that Chris is acting is making you uncomfortable and you feel like you're being ignored in favor of Chris. And that's not okay. Like literally the point of having a relationship is so that you two can be in this together. And right now you feel like you're on the outside looking in. Now, when it comes to whether or not Chris is attracted to your boyfriend, I would personally be very careful about that subject because sure, you might be right in that regard, but I'm sure it's like incredibly sensitive. And there might be some like ongoing secret that Chris hasn't revealed. So your boyfriend probably isn't going to reveal it either or something like that. So I know if I went into that aspect of it, I would just be very careful with how I word it. I would really try not to accuse anyone of anything that hasn't happened because in my opinion, that would just make things a lot worse. But regardless, hopefully this conversation can go well for you because this really sounds like a sketchy situation. And I know that if I was in your shoes, I absolutely would want to get to the bottom of this. An entitled Karen gets me fired from my teaching job after I reprimand her demon child in my English class. And I've never been more blown away by an entitled Karen's actions in my life. Here's what happened. So I used to be an English teacher at a large English school here in Brazil. We have a lot of language schools around the country, and while I did teach all ages, my favorite to work with were the children. Around March of last year, I got a group of 8-year-old children who were all really delightful. Well, except for this one that we'll call Sid. Sid is not their real name. And I'm gonna call this kid Sid because she actually reminded me of the sloth from the movie Ice Age. Sid was a horrible student. She did enjoy the games and extra activities, but whenever I tried to assign an activity from the book, she'd make it a nightmare because she wouldn't do anything and then complain about it the whole class. As a side note, their activities were basically like, hey, connect the word to the picture or color the objects that are toys, something like that. They didn't have to write anything, but Sid would still not even do that. The school had training for teachers, and we were advised to keep a policy in the classroom to help the students behave. My friend taught me the strategy of the well-behaved hangman. I would draw a hangman game for each student, and each time they would interrupt me or get up from their seats without permission or even just stop doing the activity, they would get a part of the body for their individual hangman. If the man was hung, they'd lose and I'd call their parents to discuss their agitation. Now this group was very passionate about the line to leave class, so the ones with less body parts for their hangman would be the first to leave and the rest would follow the score. So Sid always wanted to be first. It didn't matter how many times I told her the rules. She would even cry about it sometimes, which would result in another body part on her hangman. I called her mom in numerous times because she was not taught limits, which is to be expected when your mother is an entitled Karen. These conversations would go a little bit something like this. This Karen of a mother would say, "She's a child, she wants to be first." But I would respond to her and say, well, all of them want to be first in line as well. But this Karen just simply wouldn't get it. She would say, "She clearly wants it more than the others, isn't that clear?" But I said to her, well, I need to be fair to all the kids. If I promise something, I cannot lie to them and let someone else be in front of them just because they want to. Now, I didn't bring up the fact that the other kids behaved better, so they deserved it a lot more than she did, all because I knew that this argument was not going to work as this was a private school, and my coordinator and principal were specifically rigorous to teachers who would unplease parents because there was a chance they'd take their children out of the school. They would say something like, "You are paid to teach English, not good manners." So anyways, they go to a mid-year vacation, and when they come back, I'm still with Sid's group. She now arrives late every single class because her mother enrolled her in piano lessons. Being late became a restriction in the well-behaved hangman because out of the 8 students, 4 of them used to arrive late. It worked well for the other children. They talked to their parents about it, and then they talked to me. I told them that I only have 60 minutes to teach them, and it becomes a problem when I have to wait 10 minutes before I start, and it makes our time even shorter. Besides, if I start before they arrive, it becomes a problem for me because they want to socialize a bit before we get going. Now here's the thing, they all understood except for the Karen. After a few weeks, Sid was crying over being the first in line again, so I had to call up this entitled Karen. She said to me, "I heard you've been punishing my daughter for being late." I responded by saying that it's a rule we agree to keep the class in order. She's not the only one who gets negative points for that. This Karen then says, "Well, she needs to be late. She has piano lessons before the English class." I said to her, well, I'm sorry, but it would be a problem if I just let it go for her while other people get punished. So the entitled Karen said that she'd ask the babysitter to take Sid out of piano lessons a few minutes early. And you might think that she was being reasonable here, but no, of course she wasn't. I then get a call from my coordinator asking me to go to his room for just a second. The coordinator then says the following: "So I just got a call from a mother asking if this is an English school or reformatory. Do you care to explain what's going on?" I responded by saying, "Wait, what are you talking about?" The coordinator then said, "Sid's mother called and said that you've been punishing her behavior in class." I thought to myself, you've got to be kidding. Is this seriously about the line to leave the class at the end of the day? She made it sound like I was straight out locking her daughter in an Iron Maiden. I said to the coordinator, "Well, I'm not punishing her. I'm rewarding others' behavior and she's sad about it." The coordinator said, "It doesn't matter. I told you your duty is to teach English." I said to him, "How can I teach English if the children don't behave in class?" The coordinator didn't even answer that question. They said to me, "Do your job and don't mind those who are not paying attention." Now, at this point, I didn't even reply anymore because we have had arguments in the past. I had been there for 5 years already, and I knew that he would make up any excuse to make me the one to blame for the situation. You know, instead of just telling the Karen it was the best thing to do. He told me not to play the well-behaved hangman game anymore, so I decided to play another game based on correct answers they'd give me to questions. Needless to say, Sid was not the best on that too. Now, the entitled Karen would complain all the rest of the semester about it, and my coordinator couldn't do a thing about it, but of course didn't argue with her because this entitled Karen was an important woman in our city. Now, unfortunately, the entitled Karen's complaints ended up getting me fired from the school in December. My coordinator said he was not able to put up with all of those problems any longer, but there is a silver lining. Later this year, I got to sue the school for not paying me my dismissal correctly, and you know what? I ended up winning. So while I do miss this job and I did get sort of a happy ending, I am glad that I don't have to deal with that entitled Karen or the coordinator ever again. Yeah, that really sucks that that happened to you. I'm so sorry you had to deal with that. There's nothing worse than an entitled parent who doesn't see how awful their kid is acting. Like, seriously, open your eyes, lady. Your kid's being obnoxious and they're the reason they're getting in trouble. You're not singling them out, like that's obnoxious. It also really sucks that the coordinator wasn't on their side. Like, wouldn't you want some kind of standard of excellence? Something that people can look to and be like, yeah, our students are really well behaved, instead of like a daycare for kids to learn English? I don't know, that just doesn't sit well with me personally, and it's kind of insulting to the original poster. Like, they worked there for 5 years. It's not like they don't know what they're doing. They're well past the period of like learning how to do this on the job. They clearly have a good head on their shoulders with teaching English, and they clearly know how to take care of kids and make sure they stay in line. It just really sucks that instead of doing something about this and correcting this entitled Karen, the coordinator and principal basically just said, "Oh, it's your fault. The teacher's at fault for enforcing some rules and some structure in the classroom." Like, these kids are 8 years old, right? Having structure and some kind of like solid expectation is a good thing. Why should they have to double back just to appease this stupid Karen? So honestly, this is very unfair and I'm so sorry you had to deal with that, but at least you were able to sue the school and win at the end of the day, because these people were nasty pieces of work. And hopefully since this incident, you were able to find a better job. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for deciding to have a child-free wedding while still inviting my 12-year-old niece so that she can be our flower girl? Here's what happened. So my fiance and I have been engaged for 3 years, and we're starting to plan more of the wedding. Me and her have collectively decided that it would be a child-free wedding. The problem with this is that I wanted to invite my niece, and I'm just gonna call her Flower for privacy. She is a 12-year-old girl. She's very quiet and keeps to herself, and doesn't cause big problems on purpose or throw any tantrums. Me and my fiance have decided that she would be the flower girl for our wedding. Me and my niece are very close. I wanted her to be a part of my wedding, but my other family members have a problem with this. And this is because I did say it was a child-free wedding, and since Flower would be there, they are complaining that I'm clearly showing favoritism towards her. But that is simply not the case. I have been to weddings with their children, and it's very clear that they are uninterested in the wedding. A lot of these children are around 8 to 5 years old, and they cause a lot of problems. They were bored and they were running around, and the parents didn't do anything about it. They just say, "Oh, that's just kids being kids." Well, I don't want any incidents happening at my wedding, all because they can't control their children. My older sister has a rainbow baby, and the baby is 2 years old. She is getting mad because her baby cannot attend the wedding. Well, the thing thing is, her baby is extremely loud. I understand that it's still a young baby, but I don't want loud crying. I've been to weddings with children crying and it's very annoying. I want people to have a good time at my wedding, including my fiance and myself. We simply don't want to hear a child crying. My older sister is saying Flower doesn't deserve to go. I have been to multiple weddings with Flower, and she actually enjoys going to a wedding. She is quiet and reserved most of the time, but at weddings, she is more social. I want her to feel comfortable at my wedding. Well, my older sister is saying she should be replaced and not go. She wants her friend's child to be the flower girl instead of Flower herself. Now, I do not know her friend or her child that well. We would say hi to each other a few times at social events, maybe have a small conversation, but that's it. My friend has expressed that she is perfectly fine with Flower being the flower girl. My mom's side of the family is siding with my sister, and they've been treating Flower horribly. A few days ago, they were sent to the Sanrio store. Flower loves Sanrio, specifically Hello Kitty. She has never been to the Sanrio store, and when she asked about this store, they said to her, well, Flower Girl shouldn't be interested in childish things. So now they're excluding her, all because my fiance and I have decided to have a child-free wedding. So honestly, are we the jerks in this situation? What should I do? Honestly, I think the best choice of action in this scenario would just be making this entire ceremony 12 years of age or older. That was honestly like the first thing that went through my mind. But thankfully, the original poster actually went on to clarify that that is exactly what they did. Anyone from the ages of 12 and up can attend the wedding, and anyone younger has to stay home. And if I was in their shoes, I probably would have done the exact same thing. Like, think about it. I wouldn't want some kid running around and screaming like crazy. I would go nuts if somebody did that at my wedding. That would be so inappropriate and not acceptable. So I think the initial thought of saying, okay, I don't want any kids at my wedding, that in my opinion is completely reasonable and it's your choice. But it really did complicate things when you brought Flower in and said, okay, you could be the flower girl, because then everybody and their mother's gonna be like, well, wait a second, why can't my kid show up? You're showing favoritism. So the fact that they made it 12 years of age or older to show up was like a perfect solution to shut these people up. So no, you are not the jerk in this scenario. Even if you decided that no other kids besides Flower can show up, I still think you would have been justified. Because at the end of the day, this is your wedding, and no one else gets a final say in what happens at your wedding except for you and your fiance. My boyfriend's attitude and demeanor is really starting to get to me, as he is always making petty dramas while also causing a lot of distress in my life. And at this point, I'm kind of at a loss, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So to start things out, I've been divorced for 3 years, and I've been dating my boyfriend for 2 years. When we started dating, he had a nice house and a normal job, and we were very happy. About 6 months into our relationship, he started using his house as an Airbnb, and it has become very successful, meaning it's rented more often than not. My boyfriend is very outdoorsy, so when he's not staying in his house, he goes out camping or stays with me at my house for a few days. And even with all of this, he has still maintained his normal job. However, we've both come to acknowledge that when he is coming off of a camping stretch, which usually lasts for about 4 days or so, he is very irritable and starts a fight with me or makes immature comments that he knows will rile me up. We have open communication, and I went to therapy after my divorce, so I openly talk about the tools I've learned to communicate in a healthy way. We discuss why he feels so aggravated coming off of a camping trip, and it all has to do with changing routines, and he doesn't always feel totally welcome at my place. And I don't understand why he feels unwelcome, because one of the tactics we devised was to make sort of a schedule so he can adjust his routine from camping to my house and then to his. Well, that tactic is not working, and this is evidenced by him totally blowing me off yesterday and not telling me where he was when we had plans. I was married for a long time and never had the experience of immaturity, pettiness, and my own urge to pull my hair out when I get text messages like, I didn't hear from you all day, so I guess you just don't care about me. Like, come on, I'm a grown woman with a kid and a demanding career. Who talks to another adult that way? We've had a few other bumps outside of his tendency to tear apart our relationship like some kind of teen drama. For example, I got an injury on a 2-day backpacking trip a year ago, and he totally berated me on the spot, telling me I was unfit to do the hobbies that I enjoyed. He didn't help to carry my equipment or take extra breaks throughout the day. I even ended up with a staph infection in both feet and 6 months of physical therapy for my knee. For reference, he is 6'3" and 190 pounds of lean muscle. Meanwhile, I'm 5'3" and I weigh 125 pounds, and we're both carrying the same pack of weight. As you can imagine, I was definitely unfit the entire winter and spring for a lot of my hobbies. We've also had uncomfortable conversations around money. I have seen and saved more money than him, and I'd like to do fun things and go to nice restaurants. Well, last summer, I planned a road trip up the California coast with my son, and my boyfriend wanted to come along. I said that I planned to eat out a lot and go to theme parks and museums since I was saving money by camping instead of staying at hotels. He said he was good with that, but he wouldn't dine out. I said that would be really awkward, especially since we were meeting my dad for part of the trip. Well, I ended up paying for his meals, his drinks and snacks, as well as his entry tickets, all of the gas money, and camping reservations. Even when he was the only one eating, he would look to me for money. I was so frustrated by this, but I also didn't want to draw attention to it and make him feel bad. When we came back, I texted my sister about it because I needed some kind of outlet. About a month later, he told me that he accidentally read the conversation with my sister, and of course, he brought up how hurtful it was to be talked about behind his back during a fight about a totally different topic. And the fight mentioned was about the hiking trip that I talked about earlier. He also said that this made him feel bad while I was expressing my feelings about the way I was yelled at while injured. So honestly, how normal is all of this? I certainly can't take the next step with a person who treats me like this, right? So now, with all things considered, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, your boyfriend sounds really awful. It seems like he has an attitude at the drop of a hat, and he's always so willing to put you down in a way that's so inappropriate. Like he's always complaining about something, you have to walk on eggshells just to get him to adapt to normal society after going camping, and he's going through your phone without you knowing, while claiming that he accidentally read through your text messages. Like seriously, what is going on with this guy? He doesn't sound like a very good boyfriend, and it doesn't seem like he's making any kind of steps to make things work between the two of you. So in my opinion, I don't blame you for feeling upset, or at least having some kind of suspicion of if this relationship's gonna work, because his behavior is really inappropriate, and the way he's treating you absolutely should not go unnoticed. Am I the jerk for blowing up at my husband, all because he has weaponized his own incompetence? Here's what happened. So my husband's 23 years old, and he keeps messing up on small things like freezing the chicken, and I'm honestly becoming increasingly frustrated. The first time he messes up something, I show him the correct way to do it, and then I explain why you need to do it that way. The problem is that he'll keep messing up, and after the third or fourth time, I'll get so frustrated I'll just blow up on him. And his excuse is always, "I'm so sorry, I'm just dumb." Now here's the thing, I don't think he's dumb at all, and I've explained the concept of weaponized incompetence to him, but he claims he is not doing it on purpose. Here's some background information just to give some kind of example. So for starters, when I drive, he'll always tell me to turn far before it's time, and then that will mess me up. I asked him to stop nicely twice, and I yelled at him the fifth time. He also flushed paper towels when he picked up a puppy's droppings because he was too lazy to walk to the trash can 8 feet away or make multiple trips with toilet paper. I've also asked him to move his things to the side our roommate parks in front of because he had things on both, and he just moved things closer to the other wall without doing anything about the stuff I asked him to move. But all of that brings us to the main event of this story, and that's the chicken itself. We buy the large pack of chicken breasts because it's the cheapest, and sometimes I work late and he gets dinner started. The first time, he put the half-full pack of chicken in the freezer open. I saw this and I told him that the chicken had to be put in a Ziploc bag. I practiced this myself, and he's taken out the chicken I put in bags to use before. The second time, I texted him while he was making dinner to remind him to put the chicken in the bags and that he can put 3 in each one. Well, he put the open chicken package with styrofoam paper and all in the Ziploc bag and just cut off the half that was unused. I got frustrated with him and didn't raise my voice. I specifically said not to freeze the chicken in the package. Yesterday, we were supposed to have chicken salads, so I bought a whole pack of chicken and had it delivered to the house. I ended up working a 15-hour shift, and his friend took him bowling and to dinner, so that didn't happen. Instead of leaving the chicken in the fridge to be used today or separating it into Ziploc bags, he decided to put the entire pack of chicken into the freezer. He said he thought the rule only applied to already open chicken. After I got upset, he ended up separating the frozen chicken into Ziploc bags and putting one into water to defrost. He said because he fixed the problem, there's no reason to still be upset with him, while also claiming that I'm being a jerk. I told him it's not just the chicken. If I don't specify what I want, he says it's on me because he is not a mind reader. If I do ask him, it doesn't get done. I ask him multiple multiple times. I'm not nagging him. And if I get frustrated with him because I've nagged him and he still doesn't get it, then I'm the jerk who's angry over the smallest things. And he then has to walk on eggshells. Now, I don't want to drag my friends into this, so I honestly need to know, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Your boyfriend is absolutely the jerk. You said it best. He has weaponized his inability to do anything correctly. Like, this guy knows exactly what he needs to do. He knows that he needs to do things in a certain way, and he needs to be more involved in this relationship. Like, seriously, it is not that hard to put the chicken away properly. And obviously, this extends farther than any other kind of like food in the house. This guy is literally doing this on purpose. That is so annoying, and I would lose my mind. And I find it so funny how the original poster will get mad, and then this guy will be like, wow, you need to tell me what you want. I'm not a mind reader. But it's like, buddy, are you kidding me right now? The original poster literally told you exactly what they want, and that's still not good enough for you. You're still getting it wrong on purpose, it seems like. So no, you are not the jerk. This guy is seriously being stupid on purpose, and I don't blame you for getting upset in the slightest. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.